This is a celestial griffin, a demonic dodo from Ohio, a buffoon gigantopithecus. Wait, what? 7 brand new tiers of primally fearsome dinos have invaded this deserted island, and I'm completely stranded here. So I have 100 days to defeat all 7 tiers of bosses and escape this deserted island before it's too late. The fear I'm experiencing is primal. On day 1, I spawned on the beach, right next to a pedestrian with a sick paint job. And after admiring the gravity-defying island in the distance, I did the normal ARK stuff and physically assaulted this tree, picked up a rock, and made a pickaxe, which I used to emotionally assault this boulder. I had everything to craft a hatchet, but then this happened. Oh no. I got deleted. So I decided to try Thieves Valley, the home to some very colorful creatures, and some bats that were putting a mere mortal in a spin cycle. Anyways, I gathered materials, again, and after being observed by our robot overlords, I crafted another pickaxe, and proceeded to get eviscerated by an old head. Good times. For my 3rd attempt at life, I came across a cybertrike, who was terrorizing the prehistoric locals, and once he realized that I exist, this man chased me to the ends of the earth. Bro, did he just run through a boulder? I tried to get away, but accidentally went skydiving without a parachute. Well, that was fun. Anyways, after I admired the landscape again, made a pickaxe, and witnessed a crocodile getting ransacked by a squadron of aerial degenerates not going that way, I finally did it. My greatest accomplishment in this world. I made a hatchet. Oh no, please. I perished. Bro, I've experienced death like 4 times today. It's not even dinner. Luckily, I managed to get my stuff back, and I harvested my body for an afternoon snack.
You what?
And just like that, day 1 came to an end. And so did I. On day 2, my goal was to tame a pteranodon, because, you know, the floor is death. But after wandering around aimlessly for a while, exploring the unfamiliar territory, this happened. I respawned in a safer area. The blue obelisk was located on an island oasis across the water, and it looked like the perfect location to set up a base. So after once again crafting some tools, I came across this poor defenseless pedestrian. I knew what I had to do. So I farmed some wood and some fiber, but apparently fiber is extinct in this world. Where is all the fiber? I guess I'm not making a spear. So after thanking this generous roadrunner for registering as a hide donor, I didn't see any pteranodons around, so I decided to use my hide to craft a raft. Level 16, what level am I? A raft would allow me to build a bed for respawning while still being able to move around the map, at least until I tame a flyer. But I'm being gatekept by fiber. Anyways, I was thirsty, so I chugged the ocean, and I noticed something across the water. Is that a dragon? Is that Doug? So I cautiously traveled inland as I searched for the endangered species called fiber. And finally, I came across some bushes, so I meticulously separated their fiber while a Velanosaur watched menacingly from the distance. But now I had all the fiber I needed, and after deforesting the area, I spent my entire life savings to craft and place down a raft. And now my brand new mobile home is furnished with a luxury memory foam mattress, a Victorian-style handmade dresser, a complimentary drug lab, and a grill that I stole from Burger King. And after getting everything loaded up, I put my lunch in the microwave for later, and I set sail for the island. The sun was beginning to set, and I arrived at the island. But I wasn't the only one that decided to come here. That's a whole lot of hoodlums. The island was densely populated with miscreants, including a cyan gas bags and a literal boss dragon. His name is Doug. I guess I'm not building here. So I continued along, and I eventually came across some metal rocks. So I decided to dock my pirate ship and farm some. I then unlocked a few crafting related engrams, farmed some wood, and continued on my journey. This was my first time seeing a lot of the creatures in this mod, and in addition to Doug that's faster than Usain Bolt over there, I also saw a celestial looking Liopterodon glowing in the midst of the night, and a demonic version of Jaws plotting to sink my pirate ship. Anyways, I docked on this beach with the sole purpose of abolishing the existence of this trilobite. I set sail again, and on day 3, I found a good location to dock and farm some hide. I needed to craft a refining forge so I could actually cook the metal that I farmed earlier. So I exterminated this bunny. I'm sorry, okay? I needed hide. I also factory farmed this dillo, but I don't feel bad about that one. And after 1v1ing Bowser to the death, I made some cloth armor, a refining forge to cook some metal for a smithy. And looking back at this, I realized that some of the dinos in this mod aren't actually on the list. One of them being this skeletonized Rex who kind of reminds me of Skeletor from Masters of the Universe. And if hearing the word Skeletor brought back some nostalgia, then you have to play this new update. In Raid Shadow Legends, Raid is partnering with Universal Products and Experiences and Mattel to bring He-Man, a truly mighty warrior, and his arch nemesis Skeletor, a nefarious trickster, into the game as legendary champions. And from now until December 25th, you can get your hands on both of these guys. First up is the one and only Skeletor, who can be earned and added to your collection by logging into the game for 7 different days before January 8th. You'll get Skeletor on day 7, and for the next 7 days, there's a bunch more rewards waiting for you. And if you complete the champion pass, you'll get the man, the myth, the legend, He-Man. Isn't he gorgeous? Just make sure to get started before December 25th so you have enough time to get it all done. Raid has over 800 other champions as well, and the strategy involved with building the right team is definitely my favorite part about the game. The 2 modes I play the most are the PvP arena, where I have to outsmart my opponent, and the clan boss, where my clan has to work together to advance in difficulty. But if you download using my link in the description or my QR code on screen, you'll immediately get a huge starter pack and you'll get Tagoar. He's from the Orc faction and is considered one of the best epic supports in the game. And when you hit level 15, you're gonna get Grizzled Jarl, who has a ton of utility for the early game. But it doesn't end there, because once you're in, you can enter the code Monkey King and get a free legendary Sun Wukong. This is one of my favorite champions and an all-around amazing damage dealer. Code expires January 7th. And if you want to join my clan, the name is Justifies Jungle. Everyone's welcome to join. So don't forget to download using the QR code on screen or the link in the description below. Thank you to Raid for sponsoring this video, and special thanks to Universal Studios licensing. And while I was waiting on the metal to cook, I came across this oversized moss chops. That man is fat. So I did a very impressive parkour maneuver to climb up the rock, and I was going to try and tame the guy. But then a degenerate with wings started attacking the obese chop from above, and he retreated to the ocean. Apparently, this guy was an elder moss chops. He's old, which is why he's so large. But he was running away from the bird, and since he was scared, I couldn't tame him. But yeah, just like that elder moss chops, in Primal Fear, there's 10 different tiers of dinos. Toxic, Alpha, Elemental Basic, Apex, Elemental Advanced, Fabled, Omega, Black Omega, Celestial Demonic, Chaos, and Spirit. There's also 7 different tiers of bosses, and essentially each tier gets stronger and stronger, like exponentially. And in order to tame the higher tiers, you have to use items harvested from the previous. So yeah, it's really grindy, but I'm gonna try my best to take down all 7 bosses before day 100. Anyways, I now had tools and a crossbow, and I was searching for somewhere to set up my base. And on my expedition, I came across this cute little Shinehorn. Ow! I sprinted away from the rabid little lamb, and after he pillaged my hometown, 1,600 damage? I swam away, and I parked my pirate ship underneath this waterfall. There was a cave behind the waterfall here, which is pretty cool, but the bats were a bit concerning. So I decided to just continue on and search for a base location in a very safe neighborhood. But the issue was, I've never played this map before, so I didn't really know where to go. This might take a while. Bro, I'm literally snorting fire right now. At this point, I had made it all the way to here. And over on the coast, I found a happy family of dodos. But one of them was much larger than the rest. He was a toxic dodo and tried to engage in hand-to-feather combat. I wasn't exactly sure how strong this variant was at the time. Anyways, I made some more arrows for my crossbow, and I checked the tier list. Toxic is only a 3-time stat multiplier, and he's literally a dodo. So I decided to stop cowering in fear, turned around, walked up to this winged toxin, and lodged an arrow right between his feathery eyebrows. Apparently, his hide was toxic, and there was even toxic blood running through his veins. Dude's the living embodiment of ARK PvP. Also, I found this meme, and I just thought it was kind of funny. Anyways, I checked my engrams, and this is when I learned about the progression. I've already explained this, but I can use these toxic drops to make toxic tranks and toxic kibble. But I still needed hide, so it was time for a dodo dispersal. But then this happened. I almost just had a heart attack right there. alpha hide. I tried to tame the sole survivor as a souvenir, but I underestimated my abilities. And now that dodos were extinct again, I headed back to my raft to upgrade from cloth to hide armor. And then I set sail, continuing my search for a safe neighborhood to build a base. Not much happened for a while, but I did witness a flaming Olympic swimmer attempt to drive by on this innocent civilian. But he was swimming so fast that his hitbox went outside the water, instantly killing him in the process. Did that man just self-delete? So I took the opportunity to farm this flaming specimen that got DoorDashed to my boat for some elemental hide. These guys are pretty far up on the tier list, 16 times. I also saw a shipwreck in the distance, and I was about to go investigate, but then this guy rendered in. Okay, not going that way. But after my aquatic expedition, I eventually made it away from the beach islands into the heart of the map. There was an electric thyla over there, but I also saw a pteranodon, which I desperately needed. So I docked my pirate ship, grabbed some trank arrows, and noted that he was only level 8.
Level 8? Alright, dude, that's actually terrible.
He's the only normal pteranodon I've seen so far though, so I incapacitated the fine gentleman.
What is going on over there?
And while I was waiting on my new pteranodon to work up an appetite, I knocked out this innocent bystander. And after shoving some raw meat and mayho berries down their prehistoric esophagus, Terabyte and Bob the dodo were successfully tamed.
Welcome to the family, son.
On day 5, I made a saddle for Terabyte, and now that I had a flyer, I started heading towards the mountain to farm some crystal for a spyglass. But then this happened. No, they're trying to electrify Bob. So I quickly moved my raft behind the safety of this rock and flew back up the mountain. That blue thyla is definitely scary. But after admiring the view and trying to harvest this giant rose, I witnessed something even scarier.
What is that? Oh, why is the Desert Titan here?
Level 4,000, by the way. Luckily, Mr. Desert Titan decided not to murder me, but I kept a very close eye on that man while I avoided the creatures of the mountain and landed on top. I noticed that my frame rate was dropping pretty bad sometimes whenever I left the beach on this map, so I had to lower my graphics a little bit, but they're still all mostly high and epic, and I guess it could be worse. Anyways, back at my aquatic abode, I made an amazing spyglass, which essentially shows the health and torpor levels of wild creatures along with their favorite foods for taming. This is 100% necessary in this mod because there's so many different tiers of creatures with hundreds, thousands, to literal billions of health and torpor, and they all have different taming requirements. I was about to set sail and continue searching for a better base location, but I decided that everywhere is probably gonna have something dangerous, and at least this area has resources. I'm gonna set up a base around here somewhere, and the first thing I wanted to check out was the big floating island above. I have no idea what's up there. And after landing on this pillar to satisfy Terabyte's level 12 stamina, we continued ARK Survival Ascending until I reached my destination. This floating island oasis was home to many, including patchy rhinos, ninja turtles, and our robot overlords. There was also an explorer note here in the middle, which Terabyte desperately needed. But then I realized, oh, I'm gonna die. I immediately tried to fly down, but there was like an invisible wall here or something. Okay, that's interesting.
Yes, science!
Anyways, with the 16 levels from the explorer note, I managed to get Terabyte's stamina to 300. Yeah, it's still pretty bad. I also really like the idea of building up here on this island, but the cold is definitely a problem. But I continued exploring for a while, and I came across a cave that was inside the core of the island, but it was filled with spiders and snakes. Yeah, I'ma head out. I'm pretty sure the cold is like a specific radius around the core of the island because the sides are fine and this other little floating waterfall up here is as well. So yeah, I'm no longer cold. The mushroom trees here give fungal wood, and more importantly, it's completely free of primal hoodlums. I think I'm gonna move in. I wanted to scout the surrounding area on the ground as well though, so I moved my raft towards the redwoods and flew towards these ruins. There was a metric ton of metal rocks here, which was amazing, but there was also an apex rock drake, which is terrifying. And inside the ruin, there was crystal and obsidian. The entire area is absolutely amazing for resources, and I was considering just building inside these ruins, but then I almost experienced the afterlife. Oh, fabled rock elemental, 400k. Well, he's pretty healthy. So yeah, great for resources, but not exactly great when you value your life. This was perfect though, because I could build on the floating island safely away from rock-like sociopaths, and I could come back here for meadow crystal and obsidian. game. So I pulled from my reserves to craft some stone foundations, and I packed all of my luggage. Well, as much as Terabyte could carry. He's a bit of a weakling. On day 6, we took flight. It was time to finally set up a base. But for some reason, the side of the island that actually wasn't cold would not allow me to place structures. It's like not registering this as a floor. So my last resort was the little floating waterfall, at least until I get better armor. The same thing happened here where it wouldn't let me place foundations on the ground, but I could place them inside the water. So I stacked up some foundations, placed down my smithy, made a quick trip to hypothermia land to farm some more resources, and I placed down some stairs for easy access and a bed for a respawn point. This base is temporary, of course, because I don't want to live here, but it's safe, which is really all I ask for right now. Anyways, I was perusing through the engrams, and I found some pretty cool stuff, like this falling module that's supposed to prevent fall damage, and different armor variants, like this alpha flak armor, which is much better than regular, but requires alpha blood and alpha hide. I still hadn't looked through all of them at the time, but eventually I'm gonna figure everything out. On my way back down, I found another explorer note, and I wanted to tame an RG for metal, but the only one here is literally level 4. Yeah, I'll just do it on foot.
I do it again.
So now I had a ton of metal, but if it was smelting any slower, it would be frozen. This is gonna take forever. But luckily, I found this engram for a primal forge, which is allegedly much faster, but it requires a primal smithy to craft. So on day 7, I farmed this giant green crystal, which gave me obsidian? What? Anyways, I farmed a real crystal, rained death upon this peasant for hide, finally crafted a primal smithy, 34,000 artifacts of the hunter? Okay then. I don't know what was up with that one, but in general, it seems pretty expensive to summon the higher tiers of bosses. If I want to complete this mod within 100 days, I really need to get grinding. Anyways, I crafted the primal forge inside the primal smithy, flew back down, and placed it down. And after placing some metal inside, yeah, it's definitely faster. I'd say it's probably like 4 times that of a regular forge. So now that I have some metal smelting and a good base location, it was time to tame something stronger to start farming these higher tier dinos. I essentially needed to farm their resources to craft better items and then actually tame those same higher tier creatures. But before I could tame anything, I needed to cook up some drugs.
I used to do drugs. I still do, but I used to too.
So I pressed Y on my controller thousands of times while the game gave me everything but narco berries, and I did this for about 15 minutes before I found this tree that gave me corrupted wood and crystallized sap. I then proceeded to develop carpal tunnel as I pressed the Y button another 1,500 times, and now I had like 300 narco berries. Okay, yeah, I really need a berry farmer. About 15 seconds later, after I smacked this rock for some flint, I looked up and the sky was in distress. Nuclear warfare was raining from above. What is going on? So I quickly investigated the disturbance. Is this the it? Apparently, it was this level 148 spirit dragon who enjoys terrorizing my existence. Doug? And Doug in spirit form is the absolute strongest form of creature in this mod. Outside of the primal fear bosses, of course. Anyways, I continued scouting for a good berry farmer, and I flew over to the beach where I saw the entire prehistoric mafia. I'm experiencing some of that primal fear right about now. Anyways, I was still scouting, and I came across this fabled gacha. Bro looks like cotton candy. Having a gacha would be really cool, but he needed fabled kibble, and I'm not there yet. Luckily, there was a regular gacha nearby, and these guys will eat literally anything. So I offered him 130 oversized pebbles, and he ate the whole thing in one bite. And after gaslighting this ugly specimen into being my friend, I escorted him to safety. I was currently waiting on the meat spoil timer, that way I could craft narcotics, and it only had a few minutes left. So I split all 80 meat into individual stacks so they would all spoil at once. I then combined spoiled meat and narco berries in my mortar and pestle, and I gave my new eyesore a very appropriate name. They're literally twins. These videos take a really long time to make, so if you're enjoying it and or if Sid the Gacha here is your father, please consider subscribing. And let me know in the comments if you were here before 100k. I read every single comment, even the ones that bully me for playing on a controller. So yeah, have a nice day. At this point, the narcotics were done crafting, so I made some arrows and then made some trank arrows. The plan was to tame a berry farmer first for narco berries and then a strong carnivore, so I could farm the items to tame stronger tier dinos. On the side of the ruins over here, I found a caustic arca. I'm not sure what tier that is, but he's bigger than a thorny dragon. I continued my search on into the redwoods where I found a fabled bronto and a demonic horse. Everything is such low level on this map for some reason, but I mainly just wanted to explore a bit to see the map and the creatures of the mod. And I definitely got my fair share of exploring, as I saw a lot of interesting creatures, like an apex lightning wyvern, this brachiosaurus, and what is that? An alleged buffoon nameless was clowning on this apex pteranodon. Okay then. What is a dodo wyvern? Oh no. I tried to run, but Terabyte was out of stamina. No. Oh no! Anyways, I didn't have another pteranodon, so I had to enter Death Valley on foot. On the way, I passed a yellow griffin engaging in aerial warfare, and I experienced a magmasaur using his abilities to roast some brachiosaur. I was almost there, but then I came across this. What is going on? I had no idea what that was. I assumed it was like a graphical glitch or something, but I was ran off the road by Mr. Carno, so I continued on, and I managed to make it back to the dodo wyvern's domain, and I got my stuff back.
A well-trained fjordhawk can locate injured prey.
I wanted to get Terabyte's body back too, but then I got gunned down by an illegal firearm.
As soon as you're respawned by...
Long story short, I managed to get my body back, but I had to abandon the pteranodon saddle. Oh, that's a spirit rock Ellie? He has a whole skeletal system. That looks insane. Anyways, the rest of day 8 was spent wandering around in primal fear. And on day 9, I found some more pteranodons. This one was bright pink because he was fabled. And I couldn't tame him yet for obvious reasons, but there were several regular ones as well. Level 64, that works. I waited patiently for him to land and then proceeded to use this bola to tie him up. I then loaded some tranks into my trusty crossbow and used them to cure this pteranodon's insomnia. You're welcome. I finally put back on my clothes because I was freezing to death and I needed to find some meat. So I headed towards these herbivores and then I broke the fabric of reality. What? Well, this is interesting. There was a Styracosaurus here, did I pronounce that right? Who could probably break my femurs if he wanted to, but there was also a parasaur who volunteered to feed the sleepy. I accepted his donation. But before I could harvest the meat, this stream sniper tried to steal my raw parasaur, so I introduced him to my crossbow. Vultures only give spoiled meat, but I actually can use that for more narcotics, so I'll take it. Anyways, on the way back home, I somehow aggroed the Styracosaurus, so I ran straight through this gap between the rock and the cliff, and this man couldn't fit. He needs to do some exercise instead of ordering extra fries. And since he was stuck, I mean, I'm not gonna turn down some free hide. Yo? Oh, I'm gonna die. How am I alive right now? Bro, I'm bleeding out right now. This map is a tad bit glitchier than I expected, but I guess that's what happens when you play a mod map. Anyways, I fed a mixture of raw parasaur and raw Styracosaurus to my sleeping beauty. Witnessed a level 40 Rex in the life of a Brachiosaurus. Please stay over there. And while I was waiting on him to tame, another PT got DoorDash to my property. And taming a backup would be a pretty good idea. Terabyte Jr. was tamed shortly after, and roughly 10 minutes later, Terabyte Jr. was as well. Unfortunately, I didn't have 75 chitin for the saddle, so I had to head back on foot, being very careful not to run into any oversized, colorful psychopaths. And on the way there, I came across this patchy rhino. I do still need an herbivore for narco berries, and according to Dododex, it would only take 7 arrows to knock him out. It's nap time, buddy. As he became very sleepy, he tried to exhaust some fumes.
Maybe a little.
I managed to knock him out, but his torpor actually drops really fast. I only had to use a few narcotics though, and after consuming his berry buffet, Old Spice was recruited to... Wait, I don't have a tribe name. Let's see, what's another way to say primal fear? Panic at the Prehistoric Disco. The game ended up cutting off the word disco, but I decided to keep it anyway. So now that Old Spice was tamed, I unlocked and crafted a saddle for him. Terabyte did get assaulted by a corrupted stego in the distance, but after using the power of whistles to rescue him from the situation, we ran away and safely made it back to base. What's up, Sid? And now that I have narco berries taken care of, we can tame some better creatures. Day 9 was coming to an end though, so I ended off the day by uppercutting MrMeola, blackmailing him into becoming my friend, and returning to my raft. It was now day 10, and I queued up some narcotics and went to craft a pteranodon cell. But it turns out I brought all of my chitin up to my base, you know, the one on the floating island. I'm gonna need to farm some more chitin though, or some keratin. So I decided to head north, and then I immediately witnessed a war crime. Alpha Phoenix? Bro just got 360 no scope. I turned around because I need to stay away from that, but I did find this Alpha Thorny Dragon. He had some pretty nice loot. Well, that was easy, keratin. I also found a regular Thorny Dragon, and I needed that hide. But then this happened. Oh, he sees me. Okay. And then when I respawned, is he teabagging my body? I ran around and passed the Phoenix to kite him the other way, but then I came across another Alpha Thorny Dragon. I tried to make a pickaxe and harvest it real quick, but I was caught red-handed. Hi. I had to wait like 3 minutes for the bed to cool down, but after respawning, what's going on, Bob? An even bigger problem arose. Oh, that's not good. I got deleted. I had to wait another 5 minutes before I could respawn again, and all I could think about was if that rock drake gets to my raft, I'm gonna lose everything. This was really bad. When I respawned, everything was safe for now, but the rock drake was getting uncomfortably close. I decided to go all the way around the mountain to avoid the rock drake, and I managed to make it back to my original body. But I was now right between the rock drake and the Phoenix. And because of this, I was a little bit of a coward, and I decided to leave without getting my other body. When I made it back to my humble abode, I equipped the Mastercraft flak trousers, and I took some inventory. I now had a blueprint for flak boots and a blueprint for alpha flak gauntlets. We're moving up in the world, but I couldn't actually make them because for some reason that thorny dragon didn't have any blood. Anyways, I made a pteranodon saddle, it's about time, and I made a few soul traps. Soul traps are basically just cryopods, but they actually work for all the mod dinos. This was huge because I definitely can't leave my tames just lying around, especially when you have ex-convicts out here like Mr. Rock Drake. And now with that out of the way, I loaded up all of my metal ingots and I took Terabyte all the way back up to my floating island oasis. Everything should be safe here because I don't think any enemies will spawn. And I also crafted a full set of flak, so hopefully I will be safer as well. And while I was at my primal smithy, I also checked the requirements for potent and toxic narcotics. Narcoberry seeds, tintoberry seeds, rare mushrooms, rare flowers, toxic glow. I would definitely need to make some of these if I wanted to knock out a toxic carnivore, which was my new goal because that's much better than like a normal Rex or something. So on day 11, after I grabbed this pretty mid-yellow drop, I headed down to the side of the island that isn't frozen to farm some berries with Old Spice. Oh, I get mushrooms too, and flowers. So after I took a flight back down to my cruise ship to retrieve some narcotics, I split 100 raw meat to spoil, and I was able to craft some potent and toxic narcotics. But then I noticed, toxic and alpha kibble both require crops, and I'm currently very uncultured, so I guess it's now time to become a humble farmer. It ain't much, but it's honest work. Whoa, what is that? It seems that I wasn't the only resident of the island, but even though their door was wide open, I'm apparently not allowed to go inside. What is this? Whoa, just got a glimpse of the back of my eyeballs right there. Anyways, I crafted a mortar and pestle to queue up some more regular narcotics and a campfire to put my hunger at bay. I then used all of the materials I just farmed to extend the foundations and place down 4 medium crop plots. I was of course going to start with rockerets and citronal, but first I needed some fertilizer. So it turns out that human excrement doesn't provide very much fertilizer, but I happen to know someone that does. So I summoned my entire extended family, and I spent the rest of the day tiring them out a bit and collecting all their goodies. Fast forward a little bit, and it's been a while at this point, but the crops were beginning to yield, and now the only thing left to make kibble was the corresponding dino egg. Toxic kibble requires regular dino eggs, and I already had one dodo, a dodo named Bob. So I returned home with my new adopted child, who I obtained without any violence whatsoever. And this pacifist child is actually Bob's soulmate. He happens to be a male, apparently, but that's because Bob is actually a female. I didn't realize this until about 5 minutes ago. I also fed a random homeless parrot that I found on the street, and he decided to follow me home. I don't really know what you use them for, but he looks really cool. Anyways, Bob and her soulmate did some family-oriented activities. And now that I had the kibble, I needed to scout for a toxic dino. Preferably one strong enough to kill alpha stuff, but honestly, I'll take anything that lays eggs for kibble. I began my search by scouting the island of hypothermia. I wasn't really finding much, at least not until this happened. Well, I didn't know they had aimbot. When I respawned, I realized that even though I did have a backup PT, I didn't have enough hide for a saddle. I really didn't want to have to restart at my Raft again, so I had to make a very hard decision. Please don't cancel me for this. May we meet again. I still don't have enough. I just executed 2 lovers for no reason. Guys, my apology video is gonna drop on February 30th. Anyways, I finally decided to use what's left of my brain, and I crafted a parachute and a sleeping bag. This was a more intelligent plan, and I managed to whistle Terabyte Jr. and parachute over to the island. I had to sneak around the back as I avoided the robot overlords. I silently got my stuff back, and I returned back to Terabyte. The temperature was so low at this point that my leg had broken from the cold. Yeah, I don't know, ARK logic. So I decided to take my death like a man. I respawned about 5 meters to the left of my grave, grabbed my stuff back, and flew back home. I do want to be able to survive on that island for more than 30 seconds though, so I spent all of my pelt crafting a fur chest piece and some gloves. And spoiler alert, it's still really cold. I should probably tame an otter. I set up another bed in the middle island here just in case, crafted all the potent and toxic narcotics into trank arrows, and headed back down to my raft. It's finally time to tame a toxic carnivore. Only took 13 days. I also need another backup pteranodon though, and some hide for its saddle. So let me get that out of the way real quick. And now that I had the hide for the saddle, and I got a bunch of pelt from that Ovis, it's time. It wasn't long before I came across an alpha thorny dragon, and he dropped an egg. Oh wait, that's an apex. Apex gigachads have 10 times stats, basically double that of alphas. There was also another elderly Moschops, which is probably perfect for combat, but he was being harassed by a Thyla. I left that alone, and I decided to try and sneak up to steal the egg. Several times, but I kept chickening out. No, he's too close. Eventually though, I parked Terabyte at a safer distance, and I headed over on foot. As soon as I grab this, he's gonna aggro. Oh, we better run. Thorny dragons aren't particularly fast, but they do shoot spikes. And seeing everything else in this mod, the spikes will probably one-shot me. I'm gonna go for it. Let's go. So now I had an apex egg. So now I could continue my journey heading towards the redwoods and trying to stay away from the Phoenix of Death who's busy raining fire upon the tri-state area. When I arrived at my destination, I found Rudolph, like the red-nosed reindeer, and I also found an alpha ravager, which would be perfect if I had alpha kibble. I feel like someone's watching me right now. Dude, look at that tree. Don't go anywhere near that tree. Oh, there's a Reaper. I eventually made my way to the mountain, where I was met with a herd of argentavis. A toxic Argy would be actually amazing, but unfortunately, there was only an alpha, another alpha, and a fabled Argy. I tried to continue along the mountain, but there was a wyvern on the other side. Dude, I'm scared right now, bro. I can't see anything, and there's like a bunch of degenerates around me. and I couldn't see anything because of the fog, which was low-key giving me flashbacks of Transit from Black Ops 2 Zombies. Shortly after re-emerging into the redwoods, I finally found someone toxic. Oh, a toxic terror bird, but he's so low level. I didn't really have many options, so I decided to just go for it. He's obliterating Rudolph right now. He did manage to get a hit off, which made Terabyte very sleepy, but it seems that the torpor rise from the toxic trank was increasing a lot. These arrows are kind of OP. I waited until the torpor started to plateau, and then I gave him another dose of sleep motivation. And I thought that that would be it, but it turned out he needed one more. And he definitely wasn't making it easy. It took a minute because I was pretty scared of the local wildlife, but one last trank arrow to the earlobe, and he was removed from consciousness. Oh, no, don't step on him. Oh, come on, dude. The disrespect. Anyway, while that was happening, I went on a side quest to grab some cryopods for my raft, and when I returned, he was finally hungry enough to eat his toxic kibble. Before heading back, I flew back over towards the fear-inducing spirit rock elemental and tamed it back up to pteranodon. It would be nice to have a breeding pair, but I mean, I'm gonna upgrade them again later, so it really doesn't matter. When I made it back to my private island, I introduced the new members of the family to their luxurious penthouse. But then my terror buddy began foaming toxicity from the mouth. Yeah, I'm naming you Karen. And I didn't have enough toxic hide to make a toxic saddle. So after leveling her health and forcing her to eat 63 raw meat for breakfast, I put Karen in a Pokeball. Went shopping for some new winter clothing, and it's still freezing somehow. I have 38 fortitude, bro. But luckily, I'm not losing health too fast anymore. I didn't see much here, at least not at first. But after following around the destruction that is the Apex defense unit, I found this poor soul who got eviscerated by said defense unit. And this poor fella gave me some loot and a ton of Apex blood and hide. But that still didn't help me with the toxic saddle. But there was one resident of this island with a little bit of toxicity in their veins. I decided to tame this toxic specimen because dodos are great for laying eggs, and toxic eggs can make alpha kibble. Nice. This is what they use when you order a large at KFC. Wait, does that say ride? Does that say ride? What? That's so cool. And weird. The stats were kind of trash though, so I don't see myself actually using this guy. And while I was messing around, I somehow managed to knock the dude out. I think the left trigger attack is like a torpor thing or something. I don't know. I was spamming it. Anyways, I headed back over and harvested a random toxic dodo body for 25 toxic hide, and the whole island was just kind of empty. Like, the two mechanical sociopaths have exterminated every living being on the premises. And then I guess they got bored because they started annihilating the rocks and even the trees too. When I made it back, my large meal from KFC had produced an even larger boiled egg. And with that, I now had everything needed to make alpha kibble. If I managed to find something worth taming, that is. I also realized that the Apex blood and Apex eggs are pretty versatile. They're not just for advanced elemental, but also fabled and some other stuff. Although the latter is pretty expensive. At the beginning of day 15, now that I can actually survive, I went down past the invisible barrier. That is so weird. And I finally decided to explore the cave that's in my backyard. Once I made it inside, I immediately noticed the giant yellow Carno, Origin Carno. Yo, that's one of the bosses, right? Oh yeah, he has 60 million health. There were also tarantulas in here, and I'm not really sure if these random new dinos like the parrots, tarantulas, Rudolph, if they're part of Primal Fear, or if they're just a part of this mod map. There were also ravagers in here inhabiting the mushroom top, and various aberrant dinos, which could all be useful, maybe. But right now, yeah, I'm good. When I rose back to the central island, I noticed a feathery corpse, which gave me some alpha blood. The defense unit was also getting pretty low health, if you consider 6k to be low, I guess. And I might be able to take him out soon. Bro popped out another one. I had enough alpha blood for some elemental kibble if I could find another egg first, or maybe even better trank arrows. And on that note, it's about time to find an alpha carnivore. So after making a primal preserving bin, it was time to scout. So I got a okay pump shotty from this red drop, crafted a set of alpha flak armor, which has 1200 durability. Why do I look like I just took a shower in blood? Made some more toxic trank arrows and descended back down into society. I decided to stop for stamina inside this rock because I don't follow the rules, and I began my search for an alpha carnivore. But then I found this instead. Oh, not like this. This was a celestial thyla.
Wait, is he dying?
What could have possibly killed that guy? Oh, I see. There was some intergalactic Thyla on Thyla crime going on right now, and all I knew was I needed to get as far away as possible. Come on, Terabyte, we're leaving. Back in the redwoods, I saw an alpha version of my mortal enemy, and then I met Harambe's step-cousin. What is that? Buffoon Gigantopithecus? Bro was geared for war, if the war took place in a circus, I guess. And at this exact moment, I made it my life goal to tame this guy. He required special kibble, which is appropriate because he's definitely special. But I'll come back later when I have the eggs that I need. A few minutes later, I witnessed a spirit Thyla call on the gods to smite a mere mortal out of existence with the sole purpose of dropping my frame rate. But after my PC recovered from that, I found perfection. Yeah, that's the one. We're taming him. This winged embodiment of perfection would be able to traverse the map faster than Usain Bolt, while also having combat skills stone colder than Steve Austin. 22,000 health. But I needed to figure out exactly how I'm supposed to knock him out. So on day 16, I started flying back to my private island to make a trap for the Griffin. He has 41,000 torpor, which according to my calculations, toxic arrows do 18 times the regular torpor, meaning 2,700 in a crossbow. So it would be somewhere between 15 and 20 arrows. But then I realized, wait a minute, I have Apex blood. I could make Apex strength, which would be way more efficient, and it might only take like 5. I wanted to make sure that I got this tame, and I need to get everything right. So instead of boring you with my humble farming skills for the next hour, let's do a epic grind montage. It was now day 17, and I had constructed an entire griffin trap with my bare hands, which I'm just now realizing it may or may not fit him inside, depending on how large an alpha griffin is. Yeah, I might have just wasted 45 minutes. But I also have a bunch of Apex narcotics now, and I was gonna just use my crossbow, but I realized that Apex tranks are only available in dart form. So I grabbed 95 entire bars of solid metal, and I forged the longest neck rifle ever created. But then I realized I have a blueprint for one with 150% damage. Oh, I crafted the wrong one. So after removing my winter coat because I was incubating myself in the summer sun, I then, wearing nothing but the underwear on my waist and some blood red Air Jordans, used every last ounce of my metal to craft the apprentice long neck. It was definitely worth it though, because decreasing my trank uses by about 50%, yeah, I might only need like 4 trank darts. I still needed simple rifle ammo to craft the darts though, so I suited back up in my axe murderer cosplay, stole the byproduct from my productive citizens to satisfy my new crops, took an international flight to raid some charcoal and metal ingots from my abandoned cruise ship, and on the way back, I noticed a new robot on the island, Elder Defense Unit. And ignoring the fact that robots can somehow be elderly, elders tame like vanilla creatures. So after queuing up some gunpowder for the ammo, I grabbed the highest potency trank arrows at my disposal, parked Terabyte on this ledge, and lodged an arrow straight into that man's graphics card. The defense unit was absolutely flabbergasted and just stood there trying to pretend like I didn't just upload a virus into his mainframe. But after a couple more shots, he did an impressive somersault, and then his battery died. The Apex defense unit was stuck inside the ruins this entire time, luckily, but he just kept staring at me like a weirdo. I really hope he doesn't start shooting. Anyways, I had to head back and grab the mutton, and it was too cold for me to actually stand near him, so I just kind of watched from all the way over here. And just like that, his update was finished downloading. So I forced him to inhabit this Pokeball. Almost got eviscerated by Uncle the Fence Elder on the way out. That was close. And upon further inspection, this cyborg has 3,500 health and 2 basic attacks. One where he can hack and one where he can slash. I'm not actually sure if you can roll with them like the NPC ones do, but the jump is crazy. Like, look at this. He has a 0.1 inch vertical, but moves faster while in the air. Defies all laws of physics. But on day 18, when I tried to dismount this guy, I got stuck. I tried moving around to a few different spots, but every time I was like suspended in quicksand. I tried everything, but I was drowning in my own living room at this point. Help, I'm drowning and can't get up. And the only thing left to try was relogging. It didn't work. And for this reason, I gave my new mortal enemy an appropriate name and vowed to never speak to him again. Anyways, the gunpowder was done crafting, so I queued up some simple rifle ammo, which took a moderate amount of time. And then I made the dark casings and the apex tranks in the primal smithy, which crafted significantly faster. I hope you're ready for nap time, Mr. Griffin. I grabbed all of the griffin trap structures out of my smithy, but now I'm morbidly obese. All the resource weights in this mod are light work, but I guess when you put rocks into the shape of a door frame, they suddenly remember that they're supposed to be heavy. So I had to split up the structures and bring them to the raft in multiple trips. Oh my. But after recovering from my fear-induced coma, I taught a creepy alien how to swim and guided him around the giant spike. And there was something else lurking beneath the surface here as well, and I didn't know what it was, but what I did know, I gotta get out of here. Whoa, what? After moving to a safe-ish area, I took 2 more trips to my private island to retrieve the griffin trap. But even though I had it in my raft, I still needed to bring it to the griffin. And I couldn't continue on my raft because there was an ice pteranodon putting a spino in the freezer. I came to the conclusion that I needed more weight. So I grabbed the toxic trank arrows from my base, and it took the rest of day 18. But on day 19, I came across the alpha RG from earlier. He's definitely got enough weight and is probably a war veteran as well. But the problem is he can probably one-shot me. And I can't use the griffin trap because Terabyte skips wing day. This is gonna be interesting. But after making him halfway sleepy, he began to wander north. It was a bit too cold, and if I followed, I was gonna perish. This was extremely annoying, to put it lightly. Get back here, young man. But after a whole lot of buffoonery, I finally managed to get him into a climate-controlled area. Oh, don't go over there. Do you want to die? Wait, don't answer that. Luckily, he just kept flying south. And when we made it to a safe area, I landed inside of this holographic rock. And then I finished what I had started. Let's go. While I was waiting, I terrorized Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, but that was the story of how I met Hulk Hogan. Back at base, I realized that I used all of the alpha hide on my blood-stained armor, so I wasn't able to make a saddle. Prehistoric Avengers, assemble. After that expedition, business was booming. The blueprints were decent enough, but more importantly, I could now craft an alpha saddle for Hulk Hogan. He was very happy. Actually, he looks kind of creepy. Anyways, me and Hulk Hogan flew back down to the raft, and this dude is awesome. He has insane stamina, he's way faster than a normal RG, and he can even strafe and fly backwards. Like, normal RGs cannot play Dance Dance Revolution this eloquently. After I gave Hulk Hogan a standing ovation, I loaded up my griffin trap and began using every ounce of my brain power to try and remember where this griffin was at. And while I was on the hunt, I slaughtered this alpha dodo, abolished this alpha sabertooth, exterminated this toxic, I've never seen that word before, excommunicated this elder Hesperornis, and annihilated his alpha brother. Is that the broodmother? Man, I really hope not. Despite the broodmother trying to scare me away, I made it back, and the griffin was still here. So I found a clear area and set up the bane of his existence. Mounted Hulk Hogan, and we began to head over. Wait, I should probably make a sleeping bag. I realized I can actually equip my long neck while riding Hulk Hogan. I'm pretty sure you can't do that on regular RGs, but I wanted to stick to the plan. So I aggroed the Griffin, and even though he's way faster, he wasn't really doing too much damage. Everything was going to plan. So I went on foot to get him away from my RG, maybe having a little bit too much faith in the alpha armor. And essentially, this entire process was the most frustrating thing I've ever done. Every single time that I got him over to the trap, he started flying supersonic circles around me. And I did this a few more times, and I even tried to do it on Hulk Hogan, but then I realized he's too big to fit. Well, that was a waste of time. I wasn't giving up though. I just had to make sure that I didn't miss. I'm used to Griffins taking like 70 trank arrows, so traps are normally mandatory, but that went pretty well. So while I was waiting on the tame, I stood on top of his spinal cord to assert my dominance, and 5 minutes later, ladies and gentlemen, meet Gryffindor. He's insanely fast, has 25,000 health, and he's red. I had to do a quick damage test to see what we're dealing with, and this poor soul is the chosen one. It was a little bit less than the RG, but I didn't have him leveled at all, so it really wasn't too bad. Also, did I mention Gryffindor is fast, like absurdly fast. Like, I'm no longer scared of being aggroed by wyverns fast, but I am scared of the frame rate I'm getting right now. Anyways, I spent the rest of the day doing some base upkeep, and on day 21, I made some Apex pants, and then I realized that I am bankrupt in the metal department. So I crafted some various kibble, and I'm gonna try to tame an anky. And just to my luck, as soon as I entered civilization, I immediately found an alpha one. Wait, no, that's a fabled one. Why are you red? What are you looking at? I didn't see any other ones nearby, so I kept exploring, and this time I went past the crystal area with the scary phoenix guy. I had never been this far before, and I came across a shipyard. Yo, this is pretty cool. I'm pretty sure all of these assets are all ripped from the Atlas starter zones. I know the ship is. I'm still mad that they made Atlas its own game instead of just making it an ARK DLC. Would have been so much better. Anyways, after nerding out and reading some pirate lore, I continued exploring / searching for an anky. It's kind of crazy how it took 20 days for me to even move, but it's scary out here, man. Hopefully you guys didn't get bored and leave already, but it gets much interesting from now on. And across the river, things were definitely getting interesting. There was a giant canyon with metal, crystal, and critters, and when I looked up, there were like particles floating down from the aether. I think I just proved we live in a simulation. I'm still not exactly sure what that is.
The world may never know.
But then I found something else. Skeletonized Tyrannosaur. Man, it is pretty healthy. Oh no! He wasn't even looking at me. And just like that, Gryffindor had entered the afterlife. And the skeletonized tier of creatures was nowhere to be found on the list, so I had no idea what that even was. Anyways, I was pretty upset at this point. My only good tame just got one-shotted, but I still needed to get my stuff back. So I flew on my RG across the universe, but when I arrived, well, let's just say the skeletal Rex was not messing around. If I lost this RG, I was all the way back to square one. I couldn't afford any more setbacks, so I took this time to farm some sleeping bags. And then I snuck over on foot. Please don't see me. Please don't see me. Luckily, I made it out of there relatively alive, and I continued on in the midst of the night. I then found what I thought was a jerboa. That's not a jerboa. That was, in fact, a celestial ferox. There was also an apex magmasaur, as well as a foggy canyon filled to the brim with rock drake. And a rock drake would be a pretty cool replacement for Gryffindor, but they were all either trash or apex. On day 22, I arrived at the green obelisk, where I'll likely be in the history books for discovering the worst supply drop of our generation. Bro, who coded these drops? Like, what is wrong with you? Anyways, I was still riding naked on my only good tame, and I came across an alpha magmasaur. This was finally something that I could tame, but he was right next to a demonic thorny dragon. At the time, I kind of just didn't care. I really wanted to tame, and after kiting him away and launching one projectile into his magma-like skull, he was out. While I was waiting on the tame, Mr. Thorn was actually acting as a bodyguard. But what I didn't account for, however, was the magmasaur was losing torpor extremely fast. And without any narcotics, I had to do the unspeakable act of shooting a man with a trank while he was down. But in the end, it doesn't even matter. All of my efforts were futile as the thorny dragon got criminally close. And I sat there helplessly as the magmasaur woke up from his slumber. I decided to cut my losses, and after flying past an apex wyvern and an Origin RG, 48 million health by the way. There was a nameless that was committing buffoonery, but I also found what I came for in the first place, an alpha anky. The tame was really easy for a change, and now we have a proper celebrity cast. That Omega Wyvern is insanely fast. The flight home was pretty uneventful, but we did find a shipwreck that I'll have to investigate later. When I arrived at my humble abode, I repaired my armor, so I will no longer streak in public. I made some more alpha kibble and some apex strength darts, and despite my RG being a female, she refused to lay any eggs, so I won't be making any apex kibble yet. But for now, the goal was to make a saddle for my alpha anky. So I headed back out to farm some alpha hide, and I ended off day 22 by witnessing the buffoon version of Harambe immolate a normie. On day 23, I ran from some reapers in the night, and I soon found an alpha velonosaur. Normally, I would slay him for his hide, but since they can shoot things, I kinda wanted to test it out. So after my side quest to grab some alpha kibble, I returned, and I noticed a health bar under the map. Oh, is that where the broodmother sound is coming from? Nearby, I found some big profit, witnessed an Origin RG spawn in, and I found two nearby alpha broccoliosaurs, or should I say, two giant pieces of alpha hide. They had a lot of health, but luckily they didn't hit too hard, and it was pretty easy. 600 hide. Next in line, step right up, sir. When I made it back to my private island, I did a drive-by for some fabled blood, right under the defense unit's apex noses. I was finally able to craft alpha saddles for my celebrity cast, including Dwayne The Rock Johnson and Elon Musk. And now that they were all saddled up, I took my new adopted children back to the mainland, because it was time to farm metal like never before. When I arrived, the fabled anky on the beach laid a fabled egg, and with the insane grocery prices these days, I couldn't pass up on that offer. So I summoned Elon Musk and transformed him into a machine gun Kelly. I also wanted to try his other attacks, but they were absolutely abysmal, caused me to run out of stamina, and almost got me killed. If Hulk Hogan wasn't there to save my damsel in distress, Velon would be 6 feet under right now. Anyways, I scooped up this fabled omelet, put Velon in timeout for being trash, saw something called a Mongo, and a demonic Capro who decided it was time for self-destruction. But luckily, the metal area was actually clear. Oh my, I just got 1600 from one swing. I also somehow had a Gamma Dragon trophy and some boss essence in my inventory. I'm not exactly sure what happened, but I would assume one got deleted when I was nearby or something. Anyways, it's time for a metal run, and it probably won't take too long with this guy. So after hitting 70% of Hulk Hogan's carrying capacity, we headed home. I needed to increase my production, so I crafted 3 more primal forges and did some home renovation. That's gonna be like 14k ingots. And now my only real limitation is eggs. I actually need elemental eggs to make apex kibble, and apex eggs are used basically everywhere. So I decided to tame maybe an elemental dodo or something, strictly for egg laying purposes. Wait, do elemental dodos even exist? I needed cooked prime meat for the kibble, so I farmed some more wood, crafted a primal cooker. This thing is massive. Expanded my foundations and placed it down. But apparently you can't even cook meat here. So yet again, I rebuilt my campfire, and I'm gonna have to do it the old-fashioned way. And after farming some marberries, I was able to craft 1 elemental kibble. It's pretty clear at this point that I just need eggs to keep advancing in the tiers. So for now, that's the goal. And once I get somewhere between the fabled and demonic tiers, I'm gonna start looking into the boss fight. I'm kind of scared of that, not gonna lie. So with that said, I went out scouting for an elemental dodo. I don't know if they actually exist in these higher tiers, but nobody lays eggs like dodos, so it's worth a shot. I made it back into society at the end of day 24, and after chain deleting 2 toxic dodos, pub stomping an alphadillo, and praying the downfall of 2 fabled jerboas, day 24 came to an end. On day 25, I came across the dodo to rule them all. He was a dodo, but also a buffoon. His stats are kind of insane, and he looks like he's holding down the fort. I decided to stay away for now. My journey also consisted of this blazing shrine, a primal carno, a literal manticore, and of course, Doug. Yeah, I need to get away from here. I also found a fabled unicorn, which I assume is very rare, and a zombified dodo that was getting synchronized aerial assaulted by a squadron of fjordhawks. I eliminated them all. The blue obelisk was a corrupted dino paradise, and on the northern floating island, I read the writings of a madman.
I'm no pacifist.
Anyways, I eventually went through a cave and I found myself on top of this mountain. There was a ginormous microraptor here. Caustic microraptor. I don't know what the word caustic means, but I guess I must have gotten a little bit too close and then this happened. I tried to run, but his caustic abilities were slowing down Hulk Hogan. Things were looking bad, and in a last-ditch effort, I tried to pull out my long neck and knock him out. Things didn't exactly go to plan, and with a heavy heart, I regret to inform you that Hulk Hogan was removed from the premises. And the whole experience was just so exhausting that I had to take a nap right then and there, right on the mountain next to a sociopath. But after a few seconds of being knocked out, I realized something. He's not hitting me. The caustic microraptor was so ridiculously fast that he just kept circling my body. And after a couple minutes, I woke up. I even managed to maintain this circular pattern unscathed. And it was a huge long shot, but I decided to try and knock this guy out. He was moving way too fast though, and I had to lead the trank arrows at the perfect distance in order to hit him. Oh, let's go! He required one elemental kibble, which luckily I had on me from earlier. While I was waiting on the tame, I googled the word caustic. Apparently, the dude is skilled in sarcasm. Oh, wait. Able to burn or corrode organic tissue. Okay, well, yeah, that makes a little bit more sense. Anyways, after some waiting around, the tame eventually finished, and he was so ridiculously fast that I could barely even get the dude to land. And together, we farmed Hulk Hogan for his alpha blood. What, I can't just let it go to waste. And with my newfound vocabulary knowledge, I gave this man a name. This elemental tier is better than alpha, but not quite at the apex level. And luckily, in addition to being sarcastic, she's also a female. Which means that I now have a source of elemental eggs. The maneuverability and speed on this thing is absolutely insane. I was able to delete an alpha carno that hits way harder than the Queen of Sarcasm just because she's an absolute menace to society. There was also a set of ruins on this mountain with an entire shrine dedicated to Greg. I don't get the appeal. Anyways, on the way back home, I found an alpha dodo. Oh, they do exist. So I shot him with a horse tranquilizer, fed him some kibble, and named him Alpha Bob. I then forced Alpha Bob to do unspeakable things to his inferiors, and now that he proved himself worthy, we headed home. I spent most of the night evaluating the loot. It was all pretty mid, but some standouts included a 245 damage Ascendant compound bow, which is amazing, a 254 primal pump shotty, and a 233 rifle with a very long neck. On day 26, I unlocked some new engrams, and since the Queen of Sarcasm was low on health, I crafted some health potions. Well, that was kind of OP. The rapid healing caused her to lay an egg and simultaneously experience multiple bowel movements, which made the plants in my life very happy. And with an elemental egg layer at my disposal, the next step to making apex kibble was having cooked meat jerky, which requires a fire and ice feather mixture in the primal preserving bin. I am a bit scared to fight those guys after seeing what the caustic microraptor could do, but if we never face our fears, we'll never make any progress. Wow, that was low-key inspiration. While I was harvesting this alpha Bronto, I almost got erased from existence by an apex robot overlord. So I healed up again, which caused my microraptor to rain excrement from above. As I begun my search for fire and ice, I found a flaming parrot on the beach. This has to be like the most tame and basic elemental creature possible, so I went for it. The fire damage was actually not insignificant, but after a few burning feathers and some claws to the face, we harvested 46 fire feathers. That fight took a chunker out of my health though, so I used some more health potions. Bro, it's like an unlimited egg glitch. I also found this ice griffin, which I was considering taming, but I'm glad that I didn't. I then headed back home with my elemental feathers intact, and I decided to feed the Queen of Sarcasm these small XP potions. That's not small. I pumped her health all the way to 100k, and I put the rest of the points in melee. She was very excited, and I finished off the day by crafting some feather mixtures and using them to make jerky, which I then used to finally make apex kibble. I also crafted a couple more health potions and cooked up some more healing brews, and just like that, day 26 came to an end. 27 days. It took me 27 days to make an apex kibble. I can now tame apex predators, and this mod is about to get a whole lot more interesting. And the very beginning of my apex journey began with this argentavis. He was a male, which is not preferred, but I do need an RG to carry my new anky. So I sent him into an apex coma. And then I noticed a fire griffin nearby. And after the tragic passing of Gryffindor, I figured maybe he could fill that void. Hitting the shots would have been near impossible, as this dude is moving faster than the speed of sound, but I managed to abuse his love for the art of 360 no-scoping, and I pre-fired him like 4 times, and when he started running to his mother, I chased him down, lined up the final sleeper, and sent him falling from the sky. That is a massive fall. I didn't have any elemental kibble on me though, so after naming my new apex RG, wait. Back in my homeland, I realized that I need one more alpha egg to make the kibble, and I knew just the method to get one. So I fed this poor soul a large XP potion, pumped his health, and then fed him a laxative. Keep it coming, just like that. Maybe mix in an egg there. But even after further leveling and one more try, this man wasted 2 perfectly good laxatives. I really wanted this griffin, and time was running out. So I frantically started scouting the beaches, and I managed to find a female alpha dodo over on the east coast. An apex trank dart was about 10 times overkill, but after deleting some spectators, Alpha Bob's lover was welcomed into the family.
Welcome to the family, son.
On the way back, I found a cave loot crate on this floating island. These have the potential of some really high quality loot.
My disappointment is immeasurable, and my day is ruined.
Anyways, I flew across the map to craft the kibble, and I finally tamed the griffin. And after putting Mrs. Sarcasm in my Pokeball, I took him out for a test drive. And I'm not gonna lie, I was a bit disappointed. The speed felt like a normal griffin, and I'm pretty sure that the Alpha Gryffindor I had earlier was way faster. The fire attack's pretty cool though. My base was starting to get really crowded at this point, and I probably should move. But for now, I decided to just imprison the useless members of our society, and now we're looking pretty organized. We even have some natural lighting. On day 28, I used the elemental eggs to make some more jerky, and I used said jerky to make some more apex kibble. I need to tame an apex female because their eggs could get me special kibble for the buffoons, elemental advanced kibble, omega kibble, and fabled kibble. So I took the Queen of Sarcasm back down to the mines, and I decided to farm some elemental feathers while I was out. This caustic parrot was an expert in dodging my advances, and then he did a left trigger toxic attack for 5,000 damage. I of course returned the favor, and then this happened. What? Dude, his spine just elongated and then I fainted in amazement. I'm pretty sure I knocked myself out with the Queen of Sarcasm's caustic attack there, but after waking up, we salvaged the deceased parrot's mangled corpse. Well, that sounded morbid. I stole a fabled egg right in front of its fabled mother, and over by this shipwreck, I experienced something unfathomable. What is going on over here? There was an entire colony of beavers on top of this cliff with a bunch of spiders and snakes in the pit below. And to my disbelief, it seems like the beavers were making living sacrifices into the pit of doom. He just got disintegrated. But then things started escalating. All of the other beavers followed suit. I believe I'm observing a death cult right now. Rest in pieces to the beaver lineage. They're multiplying. There wasn't really anything inside of the beaver's sacrificial cave, so after meticulously dismantling some elemental parrots, I came across a female apex RG, and I peer pressured her into joining my cult. Just one RG wasn't going to be enough though, as these apex eggs are used for absolutely everything above that tier. They're super rare to find, but we need some more advanced hide to craft saddles, and most importantly, we need some apex egg layers. No males allowed. I've been searching for over an hour, and I've only found like 3 apex females that can lay eggs, but I did know of an apex aberrant carno in this cave. The reason I never tamed it is because it was surrounded by exoskeleton-wearing degenerates. Luckily, I figured out during that montage that you can use the caustic ability to kind of hover above and drop caustic nukes that linger in the area, and do pretty insane damage. I just have to stay away from Mrs. Sarcasm's mustard gas because it'll make me sleepy. In the process, I accidentally suffocated one of the carnos, but the other female was still kicking it. So I choked her out with a trank dart, and I managed to prevent hypothermia-related demise by chugging some health potions. It had some side effects. Anyways, Carnold was finally tamed, and I now had 3 apex egg layers with the Argies being mate boosted. And up until this point, they've laid a grand total of 0 eggs. But after 4 hard days of pillaging civilians for loot, I had a bit more than I could handle. So I did a deep cleanse and threw all my unwanted possessions into the ocean. I kept only the best blueprints, and the metal was finished cooking now as well. So with the help of my new blueprints, I crafted some high durability apex flak armor. I also made an apex RG saddle, reorganized my tames, well, that was painful, and mated my hawk duo for a backup egg, you know, in case something very unfortunate happens to them. And over in the lobby, some brand new trees had sprouted on my private island. Well, that didn't last very long. It would be nice if, you know, something beneficial would spawn here every now and then, but with my murderous home security system here, everything just gets spawn trapped every time. They do insane damage, but luckily I know a way to avoid that. And these machines were about to experience malfunction. I had exactly enough apex eggs to make enough kibble for 1 tame. Special, elemental advanced, omega, or fable. And I didn't want to commit yet, so I decided to scout first and craft later. And over by the river, I found an elder meganura, which is definitely not what I was looking for, but he's massive, you know, for a bug. And I wanted to see if I could actually ride on a dragonfly, because why not? I named him Megabyte to increase terabyte storage capacity, and he was indeed rideable. Bro, this just feels so wrong. I can't say I've ever had a desire to ride one of these before. I just one-shotted that guy, but I'm not gonna lie, it was pretty cool. Anyways, I started exploring for my next tame, but I committed the felony of so much as entering the render distance of a skeletonized tyrannosaur. I barely even saw, dude, how is that fair? This was a huge setback. The Queen of Sarcasm was absolutely carrying this run, and I didn't really have anything comparable to her level of utility. However, my Griffin might come close. So I leveled his health to 100k, and then after 2 medium health potions, I leveled his melee to 1000 and his movement speed by about 50%. 1 fabled potion topped off his health and continued healing 15% every second for 45 seconds. More like an invincibility potion, that's insane. And with some points into movement speed, McGriffin was now faster than the Queen of Sarcasm, God rest her soul. And it was now time to get my stuff back. So I glided my way over to the birthplace of my mortal enemy, but there was so much fog here and I couldn't see anything. But after using some caution and slowly inching forward, the fog cleared, and all that was left was the primal fear that I'm experiencing right now. But I eventually found the overpowered fella, and my body was a bit over to the left. Stay here, McGriffin. I did manage to sneak over and grab my bag while taking cover from the nuclear apocalypse, of course. But after the storm had passed, I decided to take the Queen of Sarcasm with me. At least what's left of her. Maybe I'll make her into some boots or something. My armor was all completely shattered, but I got everything back and we evacuated the crime scene. McGriffin's flame attack is definitely much better than I originally gave him credit for, especially now that the melee is leveled up. The fire ticks hit like a truck, but the downside is that the fire attack does have a cooldown. Anyway, I didn't really find much else, but on day 34, I came across a female apex thorny dragon. So I knocked her out as another apex egg layer, and while I was waiting, I found entertainment in a buffoon pteranodon swimming gracefully through the open water. I like your hat, G. And after Will Smithy was added to the celebrity cast, you can use thorny dragon saddles as smithies, by the way. I also found another fabled unicorn that was breaking the law of gravity. But before I could tame her, well, there's a desert titan here. Nope. So I went back to my private island, and over in my village, my extermination of the robot overlord seems to be working. There's now a flourishing ecosystem here for me to terrorize. Anyways, I crafted another apex saddle and then realized I used the last of my elemental eggs to do so. Oh no, I don't have the Queen of Sarcasm anymore. I'm gonna need to tame more elemental creatures because the better kibble requires all types of eggs. But luckily, I had enough apex hide to make a saddle for Carnal. And with some potions, I managed to absolutely juice his stats.
And the #1 most fakest fake natty of all time by far.
This dude's gonna be a menace. So after repairing my flak and equipping some fur armor, I checked the island cave for more apex carnos. They don't exist. I decided to test out Carnold on some rock drakes in their natural habitat. 7K? Okay, not bad. Okay, so I've been flying around for like 20 minutes and I can't find any elemental creatures that lay eggs. Like, I saw one male microraptor and a bunch of parrots, griffins, and pteranodons, but those guys don't normally lay eggs, so I don't know if they'd actually work. But I decided to take a break from that because there was something that I really wanted to try. Something involving Carnal. By the way, if you're curious about the sounds of World War III going on, I'll show you. So if I fly past this glitch in the simulation here, you'll find Doug, who's raining death upon mere mortals. He's been doing that for 20 minutes. I'm gonna have to take him out eventually because I can't hear anything, but I can't do that right now, so back to the task. During my expedition, I found that some of the primal dinos only have around 200k health, namely this primal tech track right here. And I definitely don't want to risk McGriffin, but maybe, just maybe, Carnold with the combination of the laxative health potion could take him down. Well, here goes nothing. The fight started out really well. Carnold was comboing up on that man, and Trike Wazowski was only doing about 3k per hit. And Carnold not being natty was a good thing, because the potion was offsetting the bleeding. However, the potion began to backfire. Since he was rapidly losing health and healing, Carnold was stun-locked in a pooping animation. Carnold was poop-locked, if you will. I was spamming right trigger, but Carnold continued to roleplay as a punching bag, leaving a trail of feces and apex eggs in his path. Well, that's one way to get him to lay eggs. Eventually, the potion ran out though. And with it, Trike Wazowski's luck ran out as well. The knockback kept him at bay until Carnold reigned victorious. We did it, Carnold. We didn't loot any primal blood from that, which is what I was hoping for, but I guess he is a robot. The main takeaway here is that it's definitely possible to kill things with a higher max health. So after grabbing Carnold's apex children and topping off his health with yet another laxative, I tamed this level 4 ice parrot to see if she would lay an egg. I then found an ice egg literally dropped by the same ice parrot right next to her, and I guess that confirms the same. So after making it back to base, I realized that you can actually craft armor for creatures that don't have saddles, kind of like the Griffin. So I made one for McGriffin and set out to put Carnold up against something more dangerous. And over on the West Beach, I found something that I had never seen before. Captain Black Boulder, not tameable. This seemed to be a variant of the rock elemental and some sort of mini boss perhaps. I'm definitely not ready for that right now. I also found a primal Carno, but he had more health than I anticipated, like 100 times more health than I anticipated. Yeah, there's no way Carnold is tussling with that. Well, that was explosive. I basically wasted all day 36 exploring. But on day 37, I crafted a special kibble, and I had the resources for a fabled and omega kibble as well. I then found this Maitland pteranodon, which is pink, faster than Usain Bolt, and apparently is very special. So I waited for him to land, and I tried to throw a bola at his legs. But unfortunately, he deflected my bola with the reflexes of Chuck Norris, and then broke the sound barrier as he zipped through the air. I managed to chase him down and land 2 trank arrows, but when I tell you that it was anger-inducing, well, that's an understatement. Bro, go to sleep. Move your giant forehead, McGriffin. Eventually, he went down, right next to this spirit rock elemental. And after a bit of gaslighting, we became friends. I was also in search of an omega or elemental advanced carnivore to potentially fight the demonic creatures for their blood. But with their 2% spawn rates, I really didn't find much. Yeah, I basically just wasted another day flying around on a McGriffin. I did make a saddle to try out the Maitland pteranodon though, and I've gotta say, I was pretty impressed. He's way faster than anything I've used up until this point, and even though he's not very strong, he does have an explosion attack with left trigger that does about 3k damage, and of course the infamous barrel roll, which on this guy causes even more explosions and does about 5k. I still wasn't really finding any upgrades for my army though, so I decided to settle for taming this fabled Argy, which should be pretty solid. And after wasting about 3 days mindlessly searching, I wanted to take a break. I think it's time to get a real base set up. My current island isn't really an option due to the frostbite, but luckily there were 3 more lots for sale on the floating market. First up, we have a greenhouse style floating island located directly above the redwoods. It's nice and flat and furnished with the entire Amazon rainforest and a waterfall defying all laws of physics, complemented with a small river acting as a one pteranodon garage for your water taming needs. Next up, we have this bougie flying rock located in a secluded area, the middle of nowhere, and is a very popular tourist attraction among red supply drops. Very bad red supply drop. The furnishings are a bit unconventional, including Rainbow Road from Mario Kart, but it also includes the entire Pacific Ocean for all your saltwater chugging needs. And last but not least, this majestic island has a variety of plant life, furnished with a giant umbrella rock to shield you from the rain, a hidden side area for you humble stone and sulfur farmers, and the main exhibit, a family of aquatic jerboas preparing to ride the water slide of imminent doom. There's also lot number 4, you know, hypothermia and robots. Leave a comment below and let me know which island you would pick. I'll reveal my choice very soon, but first I needed some structures to actually build my new penthouse. So I farmed some berries with Vlad the Impaler, made some Apex strength darts, farmed some Apex hide, waved hello to my Malin Tyranna brother, and crafted an Apex thorny dragon saddle. Really, dude? My pink pteranodon now has 549% move speed. Bro's got a need for speed. I finally gave him a name. And I was about to farm some wood with my thorny dragon, but I noticed a purple spino on the beach. I assumed he was fabled, but unfortunately he was Apex, even though he was purple. But an Apex spino with 20k base health could allow me to start exploring the ocean. So I launched a narcotic-laced dart into his Apex spine, and after waiting on him to finish his swimming lessons, it was nap time. I know this looks like sped up footage, but he's actually this fast. I shoved some fresh Apex kibble down his Apex esophagus, and after admiring his pearly whites, oh my, what big teeth you have, I added Spineapple to the roster. The saddle requires a lot of hide that I don't have, but I'll deal with that later, because it was now time to grind resources and set up a proper base. And step 1 was to farm some wood. I just realized that his quill shot thing out of his tail does insane torpor. More like NyQuil shot. And after transporting the precious wood-like cargo back to base, I crafted a fabled Argy saddle for my very strong gentleman. 30,000 weight? Inspirational. I used every single item at my disposal to help him set a new PR on his deadlift, and then we took a flight to our brand new home. This island was the obvious choice, and after naming my Uber driver Pioneer because he discovers new land, me and Pioneer set up a new primal smithy to temporarily hold my life savings. And it was now time to gather the residents. Thank you, editing. And just like that, day 40 came to an end. So it's definitely a base. Okay, it's not my best work. I know it looks cliche and basic, and it took way too long, but it's better than what we had before, alright? Anyways, I made a bed to rest my primal head after a hard day's work, and I'll finish the rest of the furnishing later, because right now, it was time to face my fears. I'm gonna be going head to tail against primal, demonic, and or buffoon creatures very soon. Translation, I might die today. But I did want to test out Spineapple's abilities first. So I fed him a mystery substance, inflated his health pool, farmed some apex hide from various peasants scattered throughout the universe, and I wasn't exactly paying attention to my stamina. So when I tried to glide down on McGriffin, well, I ran out. So we were very slowly going down in an earlier round, and I was ready to go down swinging. But luckily there were no degenerates waiting for me at the finish line, and I was able to cure my thirst next to this water enthusiast. 144 million. Back at base, I still needed some silica pearls for the saddle, but luckily I have my own hot tub here in my island, which just so happens to contain all the pearls my heart desires. It's time to put Spineapple to the test. There was an Omega Indominus Rex here at the Blue Op, and despite what Jurassic Park taught me about domesticating these ferocious beasts, I have everything needed for Omega Kibble. I kept that in mind, but he has a lot of torpor, so right now, I honed in on Spineapple's very first target, this fabled bag with really bad gas. As Spineapple circled his gassy prey, he entered bipedal mode. This transformed him into a hash-slinging slash. He just got deleted. So we continued on, eviscerating every living being that dared cross Spineapple's vision, and we made our way to the biggest outdoor swimming pool in the area. Spineapple was really strong, but I do still need to be careful. For example, that primal megalodon over there beefing with a fireman could probably one-shot Spineapple. Also, you see that fire pteranodon right there? Well, I deleted him pretty easily actually, but I had my recording paused when I did it. Why am I like this? Anyways, after wreaking havoc on the prehistoric landscape and farming this Bronto for his fabled hide, I ordered a pink Uber and speed ran back to base. If I want to tame a buffoon or demonic creature, I don't think that this rifle with the elongated neck is gonna cut it. And all the better narcotics require either primal blood or origin blood, which is the first tier of bosses. So my only other option is changing to a different weapon. And upon further investigation, primal compound bows and primal Fabby snipers can both shoot trank, but they're also both very expensive. Luckily, I already had a 120% damage sniper, which is definitely not great, but it'll allow me to shoot semi-automatically and hopefully knock out some prospects. I could only afford 13 apex strength bullets, but I did have another 20 toxic ones that I got from, I don't know, somewhere. I also rearranged my indentured servants, and we now have a megabyte of RAM on the roof. I also thought it was a pretty cool idea to put the egg layers like up on this rock so you can see when they lay an egg. Basically, everyone's just more organized now. Well, except for these guys. I just kind of forgot about them, to be honest. Anyways, with everything now in order, I took Lightning McQueen to the redwoods to search for Harambe, the buffoon gigantopithecus from earlier. I looked around for a while, but all I could find were reapers and primal phyla that had like 8 million health. It was pretty scary. The buffoon Lioplerodon, however, was still here on the beach. And I don't think that I noticed this earlier, but he actually has a jetpack and can become a flying fish. Yo! I wasn't exactly sure how I was gonna do this, but I cryoed Lightning McQueen just in case, and I began spectating as he beefed with an Alpha Reaper Queen. He was kicking that man's tail, but then I got a little too close and personal. Oh! Luckily, I managed to hug this ledge and throw back out Lightning McQueen as fast as possible, but this buffoon managed to commit some tomfoolery and light me on fire. I tried to run, but you can't run from fire, and I got deleted. Luckily, when I made it back over, Lightning McQueen was safe and sound. So I robbed my own grave, equipped my armor, cryoed my Speedy Gonzalez, and lined up a kill shot. I had to use my mouse for this because there's like a controller glitch on PC where the sensitivity doesn't slow down when you're inside a scope. There's probably like 3 of you watching this that actually know what I'm talking about. Anyways, the Fabby Sniper allowed me to rapid fire multiple shots. I was expecting about 10k torpor each. Yeah, it was a pretty inaccurate assumption consumption, I unloaded the entire clip as my executioner swam closer and closer through the air. I thought I was cooked, but somehow I was avoiding his 360 advances, but when he turned into a bomb squad's worst nightmare, I was sent to the Shadow Realm. On day 46, I had to bring Tony Hawk out of retirement to get my stuff back, but when I arrived, the flying fish was, well, flying per usual, but he was also flying above my body, and I didn't want Tony to perish, so I left him here and tried to see if he would see me. Yeah, I got decimated, but after I self-revived, I brought back some old friends. And it turns out that Terabyte was making a return, and he would be the hero of today's story. It's not gonna end too well for him, but please don't tell him that. This time around, I placed a sleeping bag down by Tony Hawk. I then used Terabyte to distract his buffoon brain, and I managed to kite him safely across the river. F's in the chat for Terabyte. Anyways, I was now able to get my stuff back, and after Lightning McQueen evacuated his Pokeball, we soared back to base. After seeing how bad that rifle was, my next two goals were to first make a primal compound bow and this Ascendant 269 long neck rifle, and once I determined which one is better, I was gonna get some sweet revenge on a flying buffoon. I also wanted to breed the Apex Argies because I needed some bait to see how much damage the primal and origin creatures will do. Wow, that sounds kind of barbaric. Oh well. So on day 47, after harvesting some eggs from my subjects, 23 elemental, 24 apex, 2 fabled, and 17 alpha, I crafted structures to finish the base, and I transferred everything from the outside to the inside. It took like 20 minutes. My house was looking pretty classy, and now that everything was in my crafting station, I used some stone and chitin to queue up some cementing paste. I then used an exorbitant amount of metal to craft this elongated rifle, and then I remembered that the Argies were still on mating. The temperature out here must be pretty nice because they hatched, and as you can see, I accidentally became an absent father, and it's been an entire day now, so they've matured 80% without eating anything in their entire life.
Please, sir, I want some more.
The only reason they're even still alive is because the Apex variant has such high stats that the food is juiced and it doesn't even matter. Anyways, the cementing paste was done crafting, and I made a primal compound bow, some Apex primal trank arrows, and some more Apex trank darts. I then returned to my 3 children, and out of the 3, 2 of them were males. And very unfortunately for them, I've implemented mandatory military conscription for all Apex male Argies on this island. The females get to go chilling on the egg-laying rock. Sorry, buddy, life ain't fair. And at the start of day 48, I took Lightning McQueen to the redwoods and set up a sleeping bag. And despite having a sleeping bag in the woods, we weren't going camping. We were doing some slightly unethical social experiments. The experiment began by me leaving all of my belongings here with Lightning McQueen. I then summoned my primal bait, fed him an Apex health potion, and sent him willingly into battle. The primal Thyla had 8 million health, but he actually wasn't doing too much damage. It was about 7k per hit, maybe 25 on some other type of attack he has, and that's definitely a lot, but health potions heal a percentage. So let's say I have about 200,000 to 300,000 health, and I'm healing 15% every second. Yeah, I think that would work. So next up was the origin test, the first real tier of bosses. I made my way to the mountain range where the origin Argie resides, and after parking above and summoning origin bait, well, it didn't exactly go as planned. Oh! No, I didn't even see him. He did 18k damage to Lightning McQueen, which honestly, the damage is not too bad. But losing Lightning McQueen on the other hand was absolutely devastating. I did notice though that the origin Argie moves really slow, and he doesn't do any of those insane ranged attacks that one-shot you from 2 billion light years away like everyone else in this mod. So if I tamed something that had bigger range, like the Caustic Queen of Sarcasm from earlier, I might be able to hit these bosses without taking damage. And nearby on the mountain, mountain, there was a 108 dark featherlight with only 10k torpor. 10k torpor means it only took one shot to this dark dome and he went belly up.
Bro, why do you land like that?
After using that Malin pteranodon, the RG felt insanely slow by comparison, but after making it back to base, I crafted some elemental advanced, special, and fabled kibble for any creatures I may encounter, flew back over on Spicy McGriffin, and finished the tame.
What do I name a dark featherlight?
Nightlight? Her stats are actually pretty nice, and the left trigger dark attack shoots this dark laser type of thing, which is decently powerful, but the range isn't the greatest. I also wanted to tame another Malin pteranodon because they're so fast, but when I found one, there were 2 alpha Indominus Rexes trying to foil my plans. I stalked him for a while, and eventually he moved to a almost safe distance, and after knocking him out, I fed him something special and waited a while. And at the start of day 49, he was brainwashed. I mean tamed. After making it back to base, I leveled Nightlight and tested her damage again. To be honest, I wasn't too impressed, but it also wasn't bad. I left her on the kibble rock for now, and I also remembered there's a whole plethora of bosses to be tamed in this mod. Unfortunately, all of the kibbles require artifacts, and I could be wrong, but I didn't see any artifacts in the caves. I guess we'll figure that out later, because right now, it's time to prepare for Primal World War. So I farmed some of these rare mushroom trees for rare mushrooms, and I used Vlad the Impaler to farm the local greenery for some rare flowers.
Oh my, okay. Unlimited hallucinogens.
I didn't know that gave so many mushrooms, but I only got like 130 rare flowers, but it was enough to make like 20 fabled health potions and enough narcotics to craft a few more trank arrows and a lifetime supply of apex strength darts. I also used this medium XP potion to pump Lightning McQueen Jr. back up to 600% movement speed and then increase the health a little bit. I wanted to see how good the compound bow was compared to the long neck, so I decided to use this Omega Indominus Rex as a test dummy. Is that it? Both weapons hit like a wet noodle, and I realized that the creature I'm shooting at actually affects the torpor gain. Oh, so the sniper's probably not that bad. This was amazing news, because it means the sniper might actually be good. However, some of these creatures are insanely strong, and the only thing left to try is stronger trank. I needed some primal blood. So on day 50, after arriving in the redwoods, I set up a bag for sleeping, and after throwing out Spineapple and manipulating him into chugging some performance-enhancing drugs, I approached the beast. Hey man, you wanna, come down, maybe fight to the death? The Thyla was just chilling out, making fun of me from above. So I peer pressured Spineapple into drinking some more foreign substances, and we tried again on the other Thyla. But I don't know if it's Troll Justify Day or something, but this guy wouldn't let me assault him either. So I tried to hit him with Lightning McQueen Jr. just to see what would happen. And on contact, this man decided it was time for war. So I parked Lightning McQueen and headed back over. Dude, I'm being trolled right now. I came up with the idea to use this crossbow to knock him down. But once I did, I realized, I forgot the health potion. So I went to grab that, but when I returned, the dude vanished out of thin air. I didn't realize he was a magician. Luckily, the other Thyla was still here, and this one was not related to Houdini. This man was a coward. His attempt to run away was futile, as Spineapple tore him to shreds. But then he remembered that he's literally one of the strongest creatures on the mod and decided to start fighting back. And to make matters worse, Spineapple got poop locked. Oh, not the poop lock. This is so bad. The damage wasn't too bad with the healing, but I can't attack and I literally can't move. So I just had to sit there spamming buttons on my controller while Spineapple's body went through an existential crisis. And once the potion ran out, I realized they have a cooldown. It's pretty clear that I lost the 1v1, so I tried to run away, but this troll was faster than Usain Bolt and he had some claws. It's not a good day to be a Spineapple. Luckily, Mr. Thyla went back to his tree post, so I was able to get the saddle and my armor back because, they just sit there. But Spineapple's death will forever haunt my conscience. We had to move forward though, and the next logical step was to try using different elements to do damage at range. Kinda like the caustic microraptor from earlier. I really miss her, man. So I set out to the North Mountain, where I tamed a dark megaraptor. That's just a big microraptor. It was pretty much the same as the Featherlight, although the range might be slightly larger. Overall, it's definitely not the best option. So I continued my search for greatness. Nope. And on day 51, I made a shocking revelation. Literally. I got dismounted by an electric griffin earlier in this run, which is the worst possible thing that a wild creature can do. I'm looking at you, microraptors. So I decided to test out the sniper again. Oh, that was nice. The sniper did about 10k torp per shot, compared to the 20k from the long neck, which for semi-auto is a pretty great trade-off in my opinion. Anyways, the griffin tamed and sparks were flying. Honestly, his attacks are pretty bad, at least in terms of damage, but they do seem to stun lock enemies. And while that's not as entertaining as poop locking enemies, if this worked against primal creatures, it could be pretty insane. I still had more elements to collect though, because, you know, gotta catch them all. And my next victim was this caustic parrot. I'm low-key embarrassed with how many shots I missed trying to tame this man, but in my defense, it's like impossible to aim while flying in first person. Okay, maybe I'm just bad. I couldn't test him yet because I needed a saddle, but on the way back home, I found a light griffin on the edge of the redwoods. And this time, my aim was much, much better. I just popped off right there. I had to make a detour back to Ariel Island to craft some more elemental advanced kibble. And when I returned, there was a gremlin from the dredges of society munching on my griffin. Dude, why? I hope it was worth it. That definitely hurt the taming effectiveness, but after he finished, the stats were still pretty solid. Unfortunately, the light flame is basically the same as the dark flame. It's a decent attack, but it doesn't have enough range to warrant using against stronger enemies. And here's where the MVP, the goat, the parrot, comes into play. The caustic parrot had the exact same mechanics as the Queen of Sarcasm. Basically, the corrosive acid spews from his tail feathers, and it just falls straight down. This is perfect when you're trying to avoid damage, except that parrots can't strafe or fly backwards like the Queen of Sarcasm. And when you always have to go forwards, it's like really hard to aim. So after renting out my home to these elemental ladies and gentlemen, I set out to tame a caustic griffin, or a caustic microraptor, just no parrots.
They ask you how you are, and you just have to say that you're fine.
Searching for very specific tames in this mod is pretty annoying with the super low spawn rates, but after searching for the better part of the night, and all morning of day 52, well, I still didn't find a caustic griffin, but I did find a buffoon ferox, and since he was only level 12, his torpor was only 60k. And if I stay up this high, he wasn't able to use his rocket launchers to terminate my flight. Ladies and gentlemen, we got him. This buffoon was absolutely strapped. I counted 8 different types of registered firearms. Bro's a purebred American. So after he finished taming, I didn't give him the name he wanted, but the name he deserves. I also found a higher level buffoon gigantopithecus on the way home, but he has much more torpor, and I have a buffoon to test. Could you move any slower? I guess everyone has their weaknesses, but for the first time this run, I tried pressing X on my keyboard and something actually happened. Bro, what? I remembered in the Kaiju mod that there were attacks that weren't bound to the controllers, and I guess this was the case here too. 100k? Where have you been all my life? Back at base, I made my new best buddy a very strong drink, which strengthened his abilities. I pumped his health to 300k since he was already doing pretty good damage, and then I put the rest into melee. And now my plans of taming a caustic griffin have slightly been put on hold. I'm gonna use this buffoon to take out a primal carno. So after landing on this ledge and summoning my hero, we started throwing oversized grenades like it was the Revolutionary War, and I managed to eventually get his attention. But this buffoon doesn't have the ability to aim up or down. The shots just always go straight, and the grenades always get thrown for a 300-yard field goal. I wish I would have given up at this point, but this happened. Oh no! Not only was there a primal carno, but there were multiple reapers here as well. So I ran a bit too fast. Oh no, it's his weakness. I quickly put the worst swimmer of our time into a Pokeball, and I whistled for Lightning McQueen. No help! There were 4 species of sociopath that all bought tickets to my downfall, and at one point I got stuck on top of the Primal Carno's hitbox. Let me move, bro. I thought I was done for, but luckily, by some miracle, I managed to escape. And after a swift cryo, me and Lightning McQueen Jr. fled the scene. But it was far from over. On day 53, I returned to base, and apparently Greg has passed away. My condolences. I'll probably use the Manticore armor skins later, but I deposited my entire inventory into Lightning McQueen's savings account, leveled up my no-name caustic parrot, and set out for revenge. The Carno was still here, completely unaware of the excruciating pain he was about to experience, but for some reason, he decided to fight the demonic thorny dragon instead of me. At this point, I was already on my second bag of popcorn, but I decided to join in and began raining death from above. And after some atomic level explosions, the thorny dragon reigned victorious, and I got a bunch of primal loot just for being a witness. But then an intergalactic tussle commenced. I don't know who all was involved here, but not only did the thorny dragon get evaporated, apparently Doug was also caught in the crossfire. This manga bird guy caused all of that death and destruction, so I decided it was probably best for me to leave. I'll talk to you later, I guess. Overall, the loot was really solid, but I mainly just needed primal blood, and I'm only gonna get that from getting up close and personal. So even though it wasn't Halloween yet, I put a primal costume on Carnold and a manticore costume on my flag. I was in my medieval era, and after imprisoning my 2 primal hunters in a Pokeball, I flew back to the redwoods. I tried the buffoon ferox attacks again, but yeah, this man's so uncoordinated, it's just not possible to aim long distance like this. So I set up a campsite, and we were gonna give this no-name pigeon a chance to showcase his caustic abilities. I started out by almost tranking myself, but after getting Mr. Thyla off his Christmas tree, the plan actually seemed to be working. I mean, it's definitely gonna take a while, but the poison slows him down, and catching some pegos in the crossfire is always a pretty good benefit. Anyways, my stamina was getting low, so I restored it on this cliff, and then I returned to battle. Things were actually going suspiciously well, and after a few more stamina regens and a whole lot of poison, I knocked myself out. Just wait right there, Mr. Thyla. I'll be with you in a minute. When I awoke from my slumber, he was still stuck there. So I decided to test out this American again. I wasn't managing to hit any shots per usual, so I tried getting closer to slap the guy, but he slapped back. Oh, no, no, no. It took a minute, but eventually I realized that if I hit the tree with the grenade, the splash damage will hit the Thyla. And boy, is it alive. 300k. The rockets did like 10k each as well, and I just kind of sat here all night launching rockets at a tree dweller that's ironically stuck on a tree. The moment of truth. He gave me 90 primal blood. It wasn't as much as it could have been, but the main thing is that I have some. And even though he didn't get the kill, the caustic parrot's efforts did not go unnoticed. Congrats on the promotion, buddy. Among the rest of the loot, I also found some primal flak sweatpants. And to be honest, I don't really like the way the Manticore skin looks. 29,000 durability. I needed some more narcotics to make the primal tranks. So I interrupted Vlad the Impaler's day off to farm some narcoberry seeds. And on the other side of the island, I found a new spot with all these flowers. It was pretty great for seeds. Anyways, I was finally able to craft the primal narcotics, which are 45 times more potent than normal. But I needed some more sniper bullets to make sniper tranks, so I set up a fabricator inside my living room and started producing gasoline in my fireplace. Did he just starve? Everyone else is fine. I don't know what his problem was. After disposing of the evidence, I crafted 30 sniper bullets and I made 18 primal trank bullets and 5 primal trank darts just in case. Megabyte's twerking skills are through the roof apparently. This was the absolute best form of trank that I can make. So I decided to test these bad boys out on a demonic creature because that's probably what I'll use to fight the origin bosses. The initial hit did about 10k to this thorny demon. and the overtime ticked up about 7k-ish. This means that I'd need somewhere around 50 to 90 of these tranks to knock this guy out. And with a sniper, I think it's actually pretty reasonable. But he also takes demonic kibble, and according to my Ingram calculations, both Omega and Celestial kibble require Omega eggs and primal blood. So on day 55, I dehydrated some cooked meat to make jerky, which I used to make Omega kibble. I wanted to tame some Omega and maybe some more fabled egg layers. And right next to the blue obelisk was a fabled Morellatops. Apparently you can drink Fiji water from his unconscious, water bottle. But after dropping him on my floating prison island, I tamed one more female Morellatops. And then, well, I'm not exactly sure what happened. What happened? After flying halfway across the universe, I now had 2 fabled female Morellatops. I'm about to have unlimited omelets. And on day 56, I found an old friend. Oh, I can't move. This guy, bro. What did I ever do to you? I'm now 0 for 3 against Mr. Skeletor. But after wasting a bunch of time flying through the fog and repairing my armor, I began scouting for Omegas on a heavenly McGriffin. And then this happened. Lightning McQueen Jr. I thought you were dead, young man. Somehow, this man was still alive. And at this moment, I realized that I probably died from one of those explosive dodos earlier. It must not have killed this guy. So I was able to scout much faster again, but the Omega dinos were nowhere to be found, and I didn't even see the Omega Indominus Rex from earlier. But over by the green obelisk, I found this ramshackle wandering loot boss. So I summoned a fellow American, and, well, I completely undid that man's existence. He dropped a ton of blueprints, all for Primal Fear saddles, which is pretty cool. And below the cliff, there was a dodo rex. Just got deleted. Emphasis on was a dodo rex. Holy long neck. I knew this buffoon was good, but I didn't know his MMR was this high. Anyways, after almost getting bullied by a skeleton, please no, I found another buffoon pteranodon, which I really wanted, and an Omega Poison Wyvern, an Omega Reaper, and a Dodo Wyvern. But none of those guys lay eggs, at least I'm pretty sure. So I once again wasted 20 minutes flying around the entire map, and on day 57, I did it again. No matter where I looked or how many times I looked there, all of the Omega Allos, Rexes, Spinos, or any other egg-laying beings were all extinct. I did find another wandering merchant though. I was beginning to run out of options, and I might need to start mass deletion of the creatures on the map to force new ones to respawn, because right now I didn't have much to go off of. So after taming one more fabled female Argy, it was time to quite literally exterminate everything. It's time to watch the world burn. On day 59, I found Captain Black Boulder again, and I decided to challenge him to a duel. So I threw a grenade the size of Pluto 300 meters, and after it cracked his rocks for 30k damage, he started walking towards me. I instantly regretted my decision and was about to run away, but then I thought to myself, wait, why am I scared of this dude? He moves slower than my grandma. He literally can't hit me because all I have to do is just walk away. So that's exactly what I did. And in between walking away, I kept launching explosives into his boulder shoulders until eventually he began to run from it. Oh, how the turns have tabled. And it didn't take long before the rock had been mined. The only loot that he dropped was something called a call to port. Did Captain Black Boulder just give me his phone number? Apparently, if I summon him again using this, he'll be tameable, and I really like the idea of that. Anyways, I eliminated pretty much every Rex and Spino in existence at this point, and new creatures were beginning to respawn in the dinosaur landscape. This demonic Mesopithecus was definitely new, as he was starting forest fires in the tri-state area, and a bunch of new Allos were spawning as well, including 3 separate occasions of Celestial Allo, but no Omega. Is the world ending right now? Oh, it's just a bumblebee. I continued my search far and wide, but it was now day 60 and I found pretty much everything in existence. Chaos wyvern, okay, that's scary. But even after the 2 hours that I've dedicated to this, I still hadn't found a single female omega creature. I only found married ones.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
So I did another lap around the map looking in the most obscure location and still found nothing. And at this point, I was about to give up. It had been 5 days of me doing nothing but flying in circles. And I was pretty much ready to pull up that Omega Rex spawn code. But on the way back, I saw an orange glow in the redwoods. What is Omega Aloe? And it's a female. She had 96,000 torpor and straight up tanked all of my apex bullets. I couldn't waste this opportunity though, so I loaded up a clip of primal bullets and lodged one into her omega kidney. The torpor was beginning to rise and I watched and waited. And after serving her some gourmet omega kibble, I kited this male fabled RG over to the mountain, where I benevolently put him into a medically induced coma. I was hoping that this would speed up the egg laying of my 2 female fabled RGs. And not long after, the aloe was finished taming. I named her Time Waster for taking 5 days to spawn, and I decided to take the long way around on the way back to base just to do one more sweep. And I'm glad I did, because when I made it to the swamp, well, there was definitely some new stuff spawning. There was a low-level buffoon pteranodon, which I was about to try and tame. But there was also Tortuga, master of the ocean. He was in the ocean. And he was tameable as well. I was all out of special kibble though, so I continued into the swamp when I found this. Is that an Omega Sarco? She was also a female, and this was a massive W. Oh, that's not good. This was an emergency, and emergencies call for primal sniper bullets. And right after my clip ran out, she started running. But luckily, she got stuck on this rock, where she would stay until nap time was over. It was high-key sketchy taming here because the spirit of a psychotic honeybee was terrorizing the locals. But we survived, and I didn't have any more Pokeballs on me, so I had to throw out Heavenly McGriffin. Back at base, I put the polyamorous RG on the rock next to his 2 wives, stole a fabled egg from my Morellatops, and threw out the Omega omelet makers. And now we just have to wait on our eggs to come out of the oven. So in the meantime, I'm gonna go domesticate a buffoon. To prepare for this floating Liopleurodon, I crafted some special kibble, some gunpowder, and some more primal trank bullets. The sniper would probably do the same torpor as the long neck if I made one of these ascendant blueprints, but man, it's so expensive. I can't even get away from inflation in a dinosaur video game. I had enough bullets for now though, so I took Lightning McQueen Jr. back to Shrek's hometown. And over in the swamp, it seems that the 2 buffoons had developed beef. Oh no, they're fighting. I got distracted when the walking Tortuga Island summoned an army of flying thugs. And the next thing I know, the Liopleurodon had perished. Oh, come on, man. So I made it back to base, defeated, and to rub salt on the wound, my Omega farm still hadn't laid any eggs. So I decided to do some, convincing. Alright, it's your turn now. The Sarco gifted me with my very first Omega egg, and I now had everything I needed for 1 demonic or 1 celestial kibble. So I used the organic fertilizer from my constipated Omegas to tend to my crops over on the abandoned island. I then made an S+ crafting station to make a tree sap tap. And I queued up a bunch of cementing pits. I wanted to make the Mastercraft Primal Sniper to make it easier to knock out the demonic and celestial creatures, but I don't have anywhere near enough cementing paste, polymer, or organic polymer. So I headed to the beach where I saw some dams earlier, and I managed to loot about 1,000 paste while trying not to think about the fact that I just destroyed the entire life's work of a family of innocent beavers. And they'll get over it. I still needed a lot more, but I could kill 2 birds with 1 stone by farming chitin, and I just so happened to know where it looked. You get the point. I was mainly going for mantis because organic polymer. What kind of antisocial creature lives in here? Incoming the comments of people saying they would love to live in this house. Anyway, I still had more chitin to farm. Back at base, I admired my collection of deceased insects and equipped this top hat skin that I got from witnessing a buffoon's death. I had over 10,000 chitin, but it only made 900 cementing paste because I have no stone. I like how the dino is like glow in the dark. So on day 64, I took Pioneer and dwanked the Rock Johnson on a stone grind. And with my stone inheritance, that should give us enough cementing paste for the sniper. And the final ingredient was sap. So I went to the redwoods and tapped in 19 sap. Is that it? Let's speed this up a bit. The sap taps and paste crafting shouldn't take too long, but I did have some time to kill. So I looted my old forges for charcoal, farmed some mantis for poly in the North Cave, and on day 65, right outside of the North Cave, I found another mantis. But this wasn't any ordinary mantis. This maniac had chainsaws strapped to his hand. Buffoon mantis. He's getting tamed. I decided to name this madman Edward. Edward Scissorhands, or Edward Chainsaw Hands in this case. And after constructing Edward a handmade saddle, I took him on a father maniac son fishing trip. But as cool as Edward looked, he only had the two basic mantis attacks. And yes, the jump attack does do 20k, but this was a huge step down from my purebred American ferox. I'm gonna call this area the neglect zone. It's where my children go that have disappointed me. Anyways, the sap should be ready at this point, so I took a business class flight to the redwoods, but this time there was a forest titan guarding my sap. My taps were left completely unguarded, but I couldn't collect them because McGriffin was trying to murder me. Ow! I think I just broke my femur. So I flew back to the floating island, made a wooden tree platform. Can you guys please lay an egg? Constructed said tree platform around Mr. Redwood Tree, and then I proceeded to extort Mr. Redwood Tree for all the sap in his brokerage account. I was still a few sap short, but after doing some base stuff and some home redecorating, my 3 victims, I gathered the rest of the sap I needed, made some more cementing paste, finally got another omega egg, and crafted this goat tier primal sniper. Oh, all the atrocities that I'm going to commit with this. Anyways, on day 66, I was letting the buffoon ferox attack while he was unaggressive. This freedom-loving man did 6 million damage. Did I read that right? Do it again. I tried to replicate his outstanding performance while actually riding the purebred American, but even after pressing every single key on my keyboard and pressing some that weren't on my keyboard.
What do you mean by that?
I wasn't able to get him to do any more than around 400k from the oversized grenade throw. But while my testing was in progress, I found another buffoon pteranodon. And ever since I got absolutely decimated by that guy earlier, I really wanted to tame him. So I loaded my primal sniper bullets into my brand new overpowered sniper. And it barely did anything. The long neck was much more effective, but unfortunately, so was his fireball. I flew back over on the expendable RG as fast as possible. McGriffin was really bloody, but I got stuck and I wasn't able to save him. I had to wait a full 5-minute bed cooldown because I only had 1 bed, but when I finally respawned, I geared for war. I grabbed my old long neck, some toxic trank arrows, and my old alpha armor, and I saddled up shocking McGriffin, the very last of his kind. All the other griffins were dead at this point, including Heavenly McGriffin, a victim of war at the hands of an aquatic buffoon. But the flying fish was distracted on my RG and I had just enough time to get my stuff back. And this time, I wasn't gonna let him get away with his buffoonery. Where do you think you're going? I stood on top of McGriffin's shoulder blades as I fed this buffoon a very special kibble. And he had like a jetpack thing on his chest, which was presumably keeping him afloat during his slumber. Bro, you can't operate heavy machinery under the influence. And after his gravity-defying nap, I was now friends with the sociopath, wearing a very stylish top hat. He wasn't very fast, but that's okay, because I can just carry him around in a Pokeball while traveling. It's also pretty cool how I can just fly into the water unfazed. I'm like a submarine with a top hat. The thing that I was the most interested in though is the damage. And he only had 2 attacks to pick from. The basic bite, which is pretty basic, and his second ability, LARPing as a madman with a missile launcher. These missiles only did a couple thousand on impact, but they left the area drenched in fire, and the damage over time was ticking faster than my FPS. Basically, it hits different. But the best part about this guy is that I can do it all while flying, so primal dinos can't touch this guy. Nice goatee, by the way. Anyways, I needed some more trank bullets if I was gonna tame a demonic creature, so I farmed some stone. I named my flying buffoon Steve, and I managed to get his health to 1.5 million. I then pumped up the melee and fed him some performance enhancing drugs, which bumped his health even more to 2 million. Yeah, that's actually insane. I was able to craft 28 primal sniper tranks and 16 trank darts, which should be enough to tame a demonic or celestial creature, but first, I wanted to fight a primal carno with Steve here. So I headed over to start the attack, but then, well, a Reaper, another Primal Carno, and an Origin Carno got caught in the crossfire. Got the whole mafia. Steve's damage was insane though, just straight 3k ticks like 20 times per second. And the best part is Steve's stamina regenerates mid-air. I don't even have to land. Actually, I'm pretty sure I can't land. This is broken, like actually broken. And since I was already in the situation, well, I might as well try and take down the Origin Carno too. Minutes and 90 million damage later, the Origin Carno had fallen. And I had now defeated a tier 2 boss, only 7 more of those to go. Apparently they only give 1 Origin blood each, so I probably need a faster way of taking them down if I actually want to farm that. But I had a lot of primal blood and primal hide now, along with a bunch of Origin goodies. So back at base, I swapped Carnold to some Origin attire, and I equipped the Origin armor. Wait, it doesn't have durability? It's quite literally indestructible. At this point, I had an Origin Carno tribute, 1 Origin soul, and 5 primal souls. And the tier 3 bosses require all 8 Origin tributes to summon. The Carno was 1 out of 8, but I needed to find the other 7. And I'm also gonna need demonic and celestial creatures to potentially speed up this fight and to fight the tier 3 bosses. So I headed out to find a demonic target for my trank bullets. And when I made it to the swamp, well, it wasn't demonic, but I found a male Omega Sarco. Oh, I could mate boost for eggs. So I launched a trank dart into his liver and a bullet into his dome, made some kibble at base, put him in a Pokeball, and headed west. It wasn't long before I came across a level 40 demonic thorny dragon. The level is definitely low, but so is the torpor. And with low torpor and him being stuck in this little ravine area, this should be pretty easy. And it was, at least until he started running. He was 1 trank away from a medically induced coma, but I didn't want him drowning in his sleep, so I just kind of watched as the Megalodons tried to eat someone way out of their league, and eventually he found this tiny rock to climb on, where he instantly got shot with a horse tranquilizer. While I was waiting on the tame, there was a chaos dragon nearby, causing, well, chaos. It was absolutely terrifying, but we managed to avoid it, and now I had my very first demonic dino. And these guys have up to 30 times stat multipliers, at least according to the tier list. I was super excited to try this guy out. So I named him Fred because, well, honestly, I'm not really sure. And I proceeded to give Fred the best supplements on the market. Nice. His health went up 100k per level. So I went for a nice balance of a humble 5 million health and 2100 melee. This is gonna be nuts. But I couldn't try him out just yet because I needed demonic hide for the saddle. So I used Steve to smite Fred's cousin out of existence, but being in the afterlife didn't stop Steve's cousin from getting his revenge. And after I respawned and got my stuff back, the demonic body had vanished, along with its demonic hide. It wasn't really a big deal though, because I can easily take these guys down. And I also learned that when you kill a Mongo, they drop a fertilized egg. And I wasn't exactly sure at the time, but I was assuming they were like demonic Argies. I was right. Anyways, after smiting down another one of Fred's cousins, and almost getting Steve killed at the hands of a Skeletor, I am so glad that you have 2 million health. I made it back to base, where I crafted a saddle for Fred and tried hatching the Mongo egg. The little guy was a little bit too chilly outside, but when I turned on the refining forges, I was able to incubate him in the middle of my living room. And a few minutes later, Pyro was born. The Mongo definitely uses an RG's model, but in compliance with primal labor laws, we'll have to wait and see what he can do when he turns 18. So on day 70, I landed on the beach to test out Fred. Bro, where'd he come from? And after respawning, I flew back down on Steve and started raining death on the 5 Reapers who somehow appeared out of thin air. I was absolutely destroying the alien-like gentleman, but I regret to inform you that Lightning McQueen got caught in the crossfire. Oh, I'm so sorry, buddy. Luckily, I was able to take them all down, and Fred was perfectly fine. Not even a scratch. So I celebrated Fred's life by ending this poor guy's life. And the 2 Indominus Rexes on the beach were the perfect way to put Fred to the test. No way I just one-shotted 500k. Oh my. But then I found something on the beach. Some cold-hearted person left this poor baby Indominus Rex egg defenseless without a family to take care of it. So out of the goodness of my heart, I vowed to adopt the poor orphan. Anyways, it was too cold by my forges, so I just kind of stuck the dude inside my smithy. But on the bright side, the Omega eggs were producing a lot more now with that male Sarco. And with everything running smoothly at base, my next goal was to tame another Malin pteranodon. And if I come across another origin boss on the way, well, I might be hiring Fred for some contract work. As I passed through the redwoods on Steve, we witnessed a Thyla jump out of a tree and literally start flying. What is going on? I used Steve to evaporate his celestial and spirit siblings, and then I came across a primal Carno, and it was now Fred's time to shine. 30k per day? Oh my Fred. The primal Carno got emancipated from the tyranny of existence. And Fred is even better than I thought. Yeah, he's definitely fighting an origin boss. I farmed a bit more demonic hide and got another Mongo egg before heading back to base. And I checked on Pyro. I was gone for so long that I missed his entire childhood. But that's okay, he wasn't useful to me until now. I wasn't able to make a Mongo saddle yet though, because it requires 750 celestial hide. So I went back to the mountain where all the origin creatures are, and sure enough, I found some. I wanted to avoid the origin Argies for now, and I summoned Fred near this origin Carno. The fight was going insanely well, as Fred does like 1 million damage per second. But as I began to run out of stamina, everything started falling apart. Or why won't my stamina regen? The stamina won't regen while the Origin Carno bleed effect was on. And since I had no stamina, I couldn't get away from him to regenerate the stamina. It was looking really bad. But then, Fred came up with a plan. Somehow, Fred got on this rock, and Mr. Carno did not. And it was at this moment when my stamina came crawling back. And with a full tank of gas, it was a wrap. I also took out a Primal Carno and some Mongos, and I decided that it was time to take on the Origin Argy. I was way faster than these guys, and without the bleed, stamina wasn't really an issue. I didn't actually plan to fight both of them at the same time, but as you guys know, Fred's a demon, literally, and he finished them all. Let's go, dude. There was also a Celestial Griffin here, but I wanted to leave it alive for taming purposes. 1 million torpor. So I stopped at base to drop off my mountains of newfound loot, and I crafted 4 Origin narcotics by fusing the blood of Origin Argies. This allowed me to make 4 Origin arrows, which will knock out any creature on the map in one shot. But the downside is it takes 30 seconds, and during that time, they have 2 times movement speed and 2 times melee. High risk, high reward. And it was definitely scary, but I was gonna try and use one on that Celestial Griffin. So I made my way back over, cryopotted Steve, and went over on foot. I didn't really care if I died, I just wanted to hit the shot and not waste any of these arrows. But I managed to hit the second attempt. I was fine with that, I just wanted to make sure I hit the shot. And as you can see, my bed is on cooldown. This is because I already died once to that Griffin, and I had my recording paused like a buffoon. But after I revitalized and flew over on McGriffin, Houston, we have a problem. There was a Chaos Dodo Wyvern that spawned from the Shadow Realm, and for some reason, the Griffin was still conscious. I figured out later that you actually have to survive for the knockout to work, and you can't leave render distance either. But the bigger issue here is how am I gonna get my body back? I tried to quickly sneak up, but the dodo wyvern was not messing around. On day 72, I took my dark microraptor into the trenches, and the chaos dodo wyvern was far enough away for me to get my bag. It was a really close call, but after whistling McGriffin up this ledge, we were safe. The celestial griffin was 90% knocked out, but he was also about to die, and so was I if I stayed here. So I took the L and headed back home. Back at base, I realized that there's special primal stimulants that can fully recharge your dino's stamina. So I grabbed a few for fighting origin bosses with Fred, and I spent the rest of the day searching for celestial creatures that I could farm for hide. And on day 73, I fed my brand new Pyro a health potion and took him out for a test drive. His main ability is creating a fire trail that splatters the screen as you fly. This is super powerful because it sends any ARK player with epilepsy into a seizure. And to be honest, for that reason alone, I really don't want to use him. But he also has some pretty decent in-game attacks as well. The basic bite and left trigger pickup are pretty standard for all RGs, but when I press X on my keyboard, yeah, he just decides to unleash the nuclear apocalypse. I even tested it on an Alpha Reaper with like 600k health, and, well, see for yourself. Yeah, he smacks. Anyways, in order to get to the tier 3 bosses, I need to defeat every single origin boss. But the issue is, I don't think I'm gonna find them all in the wild, and in order to craft their spawners, I need artifacts. Artifacts don't exist on this map. So I searched the entire prehistoric world for a Malin pteranodon. But then, while I wasn't paying attention, this happened. Dude, really? This raptor just won himself an all-expenses paid trip to the afterlife. Luckily, there was another Malin pteranodon over by the mountain, and this time, I wasn't going to allow any degenerates to get close. Oh, did I really just do that? Yeah, I was struggling. I couldn't find any more, so I decided to just continue the plan for artifacts. And like I said, they don't exist on this map, but after making my way to the blue obelisk, getting my trousers disintegrated off my legs by some corrupted PTs, I uploaded my mind to the cloud server. I had to transfer to another map in order to get artifacts. And after waking up in the Ragnaronian highlands, I ran half a marathon, almost got corroded by a big purple monster, took the long way around the mountain, and made it to the red obelisk. I still wasn't wearing pants, but I had all the essentials. The reason I chose Rag is because it's my favorite official mod map, but also the artifact of the brute is really close to the red ob and it's right out in the open. And there she is. I wanted to make this as easy as possible, so I grabbed the fiber off this bush, nuked a civilian for some hide, physically assaulted a tree for some wood, and set up a king-sized mattress in the cave. So now I can easily respawn right next to this brute artifact and then easily just take it to the red obelisk. And now it was almost time to farm some more origin bosses. But there was a couple things that I wanted to test out first. The first one was this manga and Indominus Rex egg. So I crafted some standing torches and arranged them in a circle, like I was doing some type of voodoo ritual. This worked well for the Mongo eggs, but the Manga and Indominus Rex eggs were still a bit chilly. So I crafted some more torches, and after Mr. Mongo hatched, I expanded the fire hazard right next to my wooden house, which put the Indominus Rexes at the perfect temperature, 30 minutes. The Indominus Rexes would take 30 minutes though, and the Mongo was still too cold. Dang, dude, get a blanket or something. So I crafted 10 more torches, and now that I was solely responsible for causing global warming, the Mongo was finally comfortable. I kind of just stood around waiting for him to hatch. And then I turned down the heat for my Indominus Rexes. And while I was waiting on the fire child to become a fireman, I grabbed the call to port from my smithy. It was time to give Mr. Black Boulder a call. Hi, how are you? He only had 100k torpor, so I started out with a trank dart to the boulder. The fish are evolving. And 2 sniper shots to his crystallized spinal cord. While waiting, I firebombed some heathens to pass the time, and after he was finished, I headed back to port. I made him a saddle. He's got seashells on his thighs, what a legend. And I'm not gonna lie, Captain Black Boulder is a disappointment to this family. He had the ability to slap, the ability to shoot, and the ability to splash. but he didn't have the ability to do any significant damage. So I put Captain Trash Boulder in the neglect zone with Edward Chainsaw Hands here, and I scooped up my newly raised manga. Not to be confused with manga. The Phoenix Mongo was like the RG Mongo, if he was cranked up to 11. He has a basic bite and this flamethrower thing, and the ability to power up, which drains my stamina super fast, but according to the ability, it protects the rider from damage, which could be pretty useful, but that's not all. It's time for the main event, which consists of me pressing X on my keyboard. He brings death upon the universe. The radius on this attack is beyond human comprehension. And not only does it hit harder than Mike Tyson in the presence of Jake Paul, but the hits just keep ticking over and over. After destroying civilization while I was regaining stamina, a hater tried to steal my clout. And for science, I decided to test it out on this demonic thorny dragon. Holy manga. This guy was even better than the thorny dragon, and I can do it all from the safety of the sky. The only downside is the noise he makes while walking. It would be really cool to have an army of mongos and mangas, but unfortunately, they're all males. Anyways, it was now time to start taking out these origin bosses. I needed the origin Rex, Raptor, Penguin, Dire Bear, Wyvern, and Spino. I already had the Carno and Argy. And I decided to start with the Penguin because I haven't seen any wild penguins on this map yet. Kind of reminds me of the Certified Hood Classic. So on day 77, I crafted armor for my arsonist, found a suitable location for nuking a penguin, and I spawned in the cold-loving flightless bird. Okay, this music just doesn't fit. It's not an epic fight, it's me cheesing this bad. Arsonist is clearly overpowered. I'm doing millions of damage and Club Penguin can't touch this. Like, the only possible way I'd even die here is if I forgot to land for stamina, I guess. Anyways, that massive victory over a penguin marks origin boss number 3 out of 8. I had 5 more origin bosses to go before I could advance to tier 3. And back at base, the Indominus Rex eggs were finally hatched. They seem kinda like a Giga reskin, and I'm really not sure how useful they'd be for me. But after moving them to an open area and giving them each several hundred slabs of raw penguin, the ungrateful gremlins wouldn't eat. I looked it up and apparently they will only eat kibble. And spoiler alert, they're not getting any. I've said this before and I'll say it again. I'm a great parent, if you're useful to me. There was a bit of a delayed reaction before he accepted his fate. Just another Tuesday. I was then scouting around for any potential origin bosses when I came across this Celestial Gas Bags. And it's definitely not my preferred tame, but he was standing still. Probably because he's being put in a spin cycle by some hawks, and there was no possible way for me to miss the origin arrow. And even with his torpor rising, he still just kinda stood there. And 30 seconds later, he was incapacitated. I had to exterminate some vermin. But after the tame, he just kinda seemed like a normal gas bag. None of the extra buttons were doing any special attacks. But after I filled his, bags, I pressed C. Oh, there it is. I'd still say that this is a huge step down from the demonic creatures, but maybe a celestial griffin or something would be better. Anyways, I continued searching for origin creatures to save me a few spawner crafts, and I came across another lightning McQueen. But after I disabled his consciousness, his body went sliding into the ocean's DMs. Bro, what? The good news is that since this is Primal Fear, he has 1800 oxygen. The bad news, I forgot the kibble. So I rushed home to cook up the scuba diver's most favoritist meal. Yes, I just said most favoritist. And when I returned, he was still holding his breath. He ate the whole thing in one bite. It took a minute to get him out of the water. I guess the game doesn't know why a pteranodon is napping under the water. But I rescued him from drowning, and we made a quick pit stop at base to name our new scuba diver and add somebody to our celebrity cast. You will now be known as Tyler. Tyler the Inflator. I spent most of the day scouting for origin bosses on Scuba Diver, but I didn't find much. I'm gonna have to craft spawners for the remaining 5 bosses. So I cryoed my expendable RG and my nightlight, speed ran to Blue Ob, and uploaded my brain. I spawned on Rag right next to the artifact in the bed that I set up earlier. You okay up there? After bringing the artifact to the obelisk, I retrieved the 2 birds that I brought with me, and I left one by the entrance to the artifact and the other at the obelisk. This will make it really easy for me to go back and forth and grab as many artifacts as I need. It was now day 79, and I really needed to pick up the pace if I was gonna beat the higher tier bosses before day 100. I can easily take down the origin bosses though, so it was time to grind it out. If you're an origin raptor, you better watch out. I'm coming for you. I don't know if I would have beat that guy without cheesing his turn radius, but just like that, I had defeated all 8 tier 2 bosses. And next up is the tier 3 Celestial Indominus Emperor and the Demonic Reaper Empress. I don't know if I'm ready for this. I have the Demonic Thorny Dragon, 3 Mongos, and 1 manga, but I still wanted some backups just in case this fight goes south. Wouldn't be the first time. And over on the mountain, I found a female Demonic Thorny Dragon. Ooh, I could breed them. So I whipped out my Origin Compound bow and lined up the shot. What? How did that miss? I only had 1 arrow, so I took the Flight of Shame back to base, made 5 more Origin Narcotics, and then I realized, wait, these guys don't have a mating option. I wasn't able to breed an army of Demonic Thorny Dragon, and I only had enough Fabled Eggs for 1 Demonic Kibble. But I crafted the 1, and I'm now reserving it for the highest level demonic creature possible. So I spent the rest of day 81 searching, and I didn't find much, except for this Mongo, which had an accidental death. So I humbly adopted his orphan child. And it took a while, but on day 82, I came across something that I haven't seen yet. A demonic parasaur. I wasn't sure if these guys were good or if they were just a troll like the buffoon mantis, but he was level 120. I absolutely have to tame this guy. I managed to actually hit my Origin Trank arrow this time, and I hovered above while this angry fella tried everything in his power to murder me, but 30 seconds later, he was in a deep demonic sleep. I decided to name my new demon Perry. Perry the Demonic Parasaur. And after sniping another Mongo and spawn trapping Greg for funsies, I headed back to my humble abode, made Perry a saddle. I need fiber. Claimed the baby Mongo, and served Perry one of my strongest drinks. 88 levels. I spent about half the levels making sure Perry was very healthy. That's a big number. I put a few into movement speed, further increased the health to 15 milli, and put the rest into demonic melee damage. And I finished off his self-improvement journey by using a health laxative to heal him up. The sheer strength of Perry the Demonic Parasaur was impressive. He headbutted this RG for 35k. Does the typical Parasaur scan with the left trigger, and he has this okay fire breath with C. But X, oh, the glorious X button on my keyboard does this. Yeah, it's just like the manga, but with his level, it does more damage per tick. And while I still think the manga is better because wings, Perry has 15 million health, and for certain fights, that's much more useful. I probably need to make these Spirit and Chaos Orbs to tame Spirit and Chaos Dinos, but they require Demonic and Celestial Eggs, which I don't have any females of. And I was also running low on Fabled Eggs for their kibble, so I decided to breed more Fabled RG Egg Layers. Unfortunately for them, however, they were both male. We don't take kindly to your type around here. Okay, before you say anything about what just happened, they could have just, you know, been a female and none of this would have happened, okay? Anyways, it was already day 83 and I was only on tier 3 bosses. I didn't have much time to waste, so I decided to risk it and spawn in the Demonic Reaper Empress. I really hope she can't knock arsonist out of the air. but a few seconds into the fight, she buried under the ground. I might have to get up close and personal. I don't know why she just booked it straight for the ocean, but she cannot bury you underwater. And I wasn't planning on completely cheesing this fight, but like, she did this to herself. Well, that was kind of underwhelming. The Empress dropped me a demonic helmet. Yeah, I'm putting the top hat skin back on. But this wasn't any ordinary helmet. You have unlimited oxygen. I'm a fish. The Empress also dropped another spawner, but this time one to actually tame her. And I feel like having a manga is still probably better because wings, but I'll definitely give it a shot. Anyways, with the demonic Reaper Empress defeated, I now have the ability to summon the tier 4 Chaos Guardian boss. I'm gonna try the tier 3 Celestial Indominus Rex first though, and according to the tier list, I should fight this guy with Celestials. And since I saw a Celestial RG on the mountain earlier, I decided now was a pretty good time to offer him a job. So after flying over, I identified the target, missed, and then read him a bedtime story. I named him Hawk Hogan, but better, and since there was a female thorny dragon nearby, I decided to tame her for demonic eggs as well. So I lined up the shot, missed, and then sent her into a demonic dreamscape. That was my last demonic kibble. But back at base, I had just enough Celestial hide for Hawk Hogan's new saddle. So I peer pressured him into drinking some foreign substances, and now he's very powerful. Well, at least his stats said so. But when I tested him out, the default bite did 60k, which is great, but the only special attack that he had was this weird fireworks thing, which is completely unnecessary because it's not even the 4th of July. And it didn't hit very hard, it didn't tick like the demonic stats, and it was almost impossible to aim. I managed to kill this Celestial ferox using it, and I nuked an entire town of peasants. But when I try to fight anything specific like this thorny dragon, I literally can't even hit him. Maybe it's a skill issue, I don't know. I still wanted to take down the Origin RG here though, so I summoned Perry. And I don't even know how to describe this, but this man is godlike, or demon-like, I guess. That was the fastest Origin kill I've had yet. Anyways, back at base, I put Hawk Hogan but better in the neglect zone, and I checked the requirements for Chaos Kibble. And all I really need is for my female thorny dragon to lay 2 demonic eggs. But in the meantime, I decided to defeat all of the Origin bosses again to summon the Celestial Emperor, the other tier 3 boss. So I did a quick sweep of the map to try and save myself from grinding boss spawners, and I was going to delete these Celestial aloes here for hide, but as soon as I started the firebomb animation, oh no, not this guy, Skeletor's weird gaze caused Arsonist to land mid-air. And once he hit the water, yeah, it didn't go too well. I made it back over on Steve, but then as soon as I dismounted, dude, the bed was now on cooldown. And when I finally made it back, it was too late. Luckily, Arsonist laid an egg on death, just like the wild monkas do, which is kind of poetic since phoenixes can rise from the ashes. But regardless, it was now my life's goal to end the existence of Mr. Skeletor. This man has ruined my day like 5 times now. Anyways, I found an Origin dire bear nearby, which would save me an artifact trove. Harry's a menace. I didn't find any more Origin dinos on the map, but I did find this. What is that? I was confused at first, but then I remembered. Bro, how did you get all the way over here? Good luck, I guess. On day 85, after crafting 2 more Origin Trank arrows, I hatched the manga egg. And I named her Immortal because she literally just reincarnated. And it was almost time to fight the Celestial Emperor, the last tier 3 boss. But to summon him, I needed all the tier 2 Origin bosses again. And yeah, this is where it gets pretty grindy. I needed artifacts and Omega Blood, and I knew just where to get some. So I coerced my Omega Sarcos into putting their child up for adoption. Welcome the little orange guy into this world. And then, well, Edward Chainsaw Hands has some unethical business practices. Thank you for your donation. And now the last ingredient was the artifact. So I took Scuba Diver back to Blue Ob, took a business trip to Ragnarok, and me and my Ragnarok dwelling RG spent the rest of day 85 staring at this wall. We were waiting on the artifact to spawn. Hey, there it is. Bringing it to the obelisk and repeating the process. On day 86, I made it back to Thieves Island, and I had to grab the artifacts out of the ob one by one because in this game you can only carry one at a time. I then spawn trapped some more reptilians for their blood. And at the end of day 86, it was time for the fight. But using the manga every time is way too easy, and we gotta make this more entertaining for the video. So I'm gonna summon all 5 of them at the same time on Perry the Platosaur. I really hope I don't regret this. So without further ado, I present to you Perry versus everybody. Perry has officially graduated from Parasaur to Goat, and now I could summon the tameable Indominus Emperor. But first, I wanted to tame his Empress, the demonic Reaper boss from earlier. And I now had 7 origin trains, so I decided to make one of my Mongos as tanky as possible. Gave him a very appropriate name. Grabbed the Empress spawner, made a demonic kibble, and we spawned Her Majesty on the beach. With a target that massive, there's no way I can miss this shot, right? Right? Okay, I'm not gonna lie, I thought I missed that. Anyways, these OP arrows, combined with the fact that you can shoot while flying, just make taming an absolute joke in this mod. And I just kind of hovered as the NyQuil kicked in. She was very hungry and wanted 2 entire kibble. So I went back to base and used the rest of my fabled eggs to craft one. And with this gourmet meal, I tamed the beast. The beast's new name was Barbara. And Barbara was actually really good. Keep in mind, I haven't actually leveled her up yet, but she has 4 attacks. The bite, the Reaper tail shot, the 360 no scope, and dropping a flaming poisonous atom bomb. And that's the demonic creature signature one that does an insane amount of damage over time. I think she might even do more than parry the demonic Parasaur after being leveled up. Why are they so tiny? I only needed 1 more demonic egg for Chaos Kibble, but it was time to stop procrastinating and take on the Celestial Emperor. The tier list is saying to fight these guys with Celestials, but I don't have any good ones. And if it didn't say that, I'd probably just take my whole army on foot, but I don't want to just get wiped before we even get to the tier 4 Guardians, so I'm doing the manga cheese. The Emperor was just as easy as the Demonic Empress, at least at first. But then he started spawning in Celestial Goons. My manga could easily take them out, but what I didn't expect, however, was for them to be able to instantly delete me. But I came back over on my Mongo, and we were able to resume the fight. But this time, I stayed up high enough in the air where he wouldn't trigger his goons, and everything was going fantastic until this happened. I had to act fast before Immortal became mortal again. So I scooped up Fred, summoned him over on the beach, and got my revenge. Fred, you just saved the world, buddy. For some reason, there was also an Origin Carno here, and my manga, despite being in the crossfire of World War III that entire time, he barely lost any health. This dude really is immortal. My Mongo perished at some point during that, I'm pretty sure, because I just left him on the rock and he's not there anymore. But we're not gonna talk about that. Anyways, back at base, I evaluated the sweet loot, and on top of a tameable Indominus Emperor spawner, I also got a Celestial chest piece, which makes me immune to fire and constantly heals me. I'm evolving. And to tame the Indominus Emperor, I would probably need 1 more Celestial Kibble, but I was 2 fabled eggs short. Never mind. The knockout and the tame was pretty easy with origin tranks per usual, and I leveled him to 10 million health and the rest in melee, just like his Empress. He was able to do a lot of damage for a Celestial, but he still had the same problem that the RG has with not being able to do the high DPS ticks. Please let me know in the comments if I'm missing something or I'm doing something wrong here, but I just don't like the Celestial dinos. When the demonic ones have the insane DPS tick, like what's the point in using a Celestial? Anyways, I needed to farm a lot of Celestial and a lot of demonic souls, because it was almost time to summon the tier 4 Chaos and Spirit Guardians. So I put Barbara to work. And at this point, I had everything needed to summon the tier 4 Chaos Guardian. I just needed some more Origin Blood. Or, instead of doing that, I could use the Emperor and Empress souls to make bone meal, which would allow me to tame my mortal enemy, the skeletonized Rex. And that seems like it would be a pretty good idea. I just needed more Fable eggs to finish off the kibble requirement. So now, it was time for that breeding montage that we all know and love. I needed as many egg layers as possible. It took a while, but I finally had all the kibble needed to craft some bone meal for Mr. Skeletor. But it also required 1200 keratin, which I used all of that on my cementing phase. Why is everything so grindy? This little bone costed me both of my tier 3 boss souls. It better be worth it. I knew of 3 Skeletors on the map, and this first guy was level 43. Oh no. You literally can't even go in render, bro. It's insane. The second one was level 45 and in a much more survivable location. And the third one, however, was level 139. And I really hated the area, but with that level, this was definitely the one to go for. So I came up with a plan. I was gonna use this rock to avoid his line of sight. Okay, look, it wasn't a good plan, but I mean, it was still a plan. I managed to hit my shot, and his line of sight was clearly blocked. But apparently, physics don't apply to this man. After getting my stuff back with Immortal, I mourned the death of a scuba diver and came up with a new plan. I have 3 million health on this manga, so if I trank him and then immediately down a health potion, he should be able to tank it for the 30 seconds. That sounded good in my head, so I lined up a pretty impressive shot, if I do say so myself. I retreated to this rock, and I waited some more. But for some reason, his torpor was still on 0. I thought maybe I missed and hit some random pedestrian or something, so I shot another one. But the dude was still wide awake. I didn't know what else to do, so I just headed back to base. And on day 93, I took it to the interwebs and looked it up. The skeletal tyrannosaur isn't even on the primal fear list, and I watched several YouTube videos of all these different people doing exactly what I just did, but their torpor actually went up. So I flew back over and tried again. The first arrow did absolutely nothing, but the health potion was keeping me alive. I wasn't exactly sure what was wrong, but I noticed that he was powered. powered up. So I thought maybe if I waited until he was powered down that he would start taking torpor. But 30 seconds later, when I shot him with the 4th origin trank arrow at this point, this man is ingrained in woke culture. And as I sat there, flabbergasted, he used his ability again and I couldn't fly away. It didn't take him long to catch up. And when I flew back over on the Queen of Darkness to get my stuff back, well, Immortal was still alive, but now the Queen of Darkness is not. Luckily, I did have a sleeping bag, and they were now distracted on Immortal enough for me to actually get my stuff, and for some reason, Mr. Skeletor outsourced the dirty work to these 2 minions, and he was just like going on a brisk walk over there. So I actually was able to get Immortal back somehow. This man's at full health? There's gotta be some kind of bug or something with this. It was nice that this dude was still alive, but not figuring out how to knock out the Tyrannosaur was definitely disappointing. And since I wasted my tier 3 boss souls for that bone meal, I have to fight the demonic Reaper Empress again. So I once again crafted all the origin spawners, brought my entire army to the battlefield, pawned in the enemy, and grabbed some popcorn. It seems that Fred and Rexy were quiet quitting over there, but Barbara and Perry were holding down the fort. Apparently I forgot to craft a wyvern spawner, and that was probably because I didn't have any more Omega blood. I seem to have found some Omega blood. Imagine getting spawn trapped. And after all of that, everybody was basically full health, except for Rexy, who got absolutely destroyed. I'm assuming it's because he's celestial, so maybe he takes more damage from the demons. I'm not sure. But for the Empress fight, I wanted to ensure that everybody stayed alive for the tier 4. So on day 95, I spawned her demonic majesty in a very large swimming pool. And then I cheesed her with my manga. This fight takes so long. I don't think that my tames would have actually survived that fight on the ground because it takes so long. But anyways, I got a demonic Louis Vuitton t-shirt and some demonic Gucci flip-flops, which gave me unlimited stamina. I also got another tameable Empress spawner, which I consumed to summon the alien, introduce her to my trank arrow, grab some kibble, and name her Brenda. And now that I had Brenda at my side, I farmed some fabled eggs, made some more demonic kibble, and I was a little bit worried about this tier 4 fight, so in order to give it a real fair attempt, I'm gonna tame as many demonic creatures as physically possible. There's been a whole lot of montages at the end of this video. And now, on day 99, I had another like 15 demons, and I think I'm as prepared as I'm gonna get. So I crafted the Chaos Guardian tier 4 boss spawner, prepared everyone for transportation, and I assembled the modern day, prehistoric day Roman army. Well, that ruined the moment. And just like that, everything was gone. I'm not really sure how it's even possible to beat that guy, at least without cheesing him by spawning him in like a cave or something. Maybe an army of skeletal Rexes would be the way to do it, but we all know how that went. This video took a lot of time, so please leave a like if you enjoyed it, and if you want to see me try again or whatever other mod you want to see, let me know in the comments below. But I also have a bunch of other stuff planned, and it's some pretty unique stuff. You're not going to want to miss it, so make sure you're subscribed. Don't forget to check out Raid Shadow Legends using the QR code on screen or the link in the description. And if you want to see me spend 24 hours in Once Human, the Way of Winter, click right here.